Being nice always seems to help.
Amazing.
Good evening. It's May 6, 2019. This is the Sutton School Committee. Call the meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item is the Citizens Forum. Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. This is the minutes, includes the minutes from April 1st, bill schedules from April 4th, April 11th, April 25th, and May 2nd.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
There are no student updates tonight. We're going to move along to the high school update with Ms. McCarthy.
Happy spring, everybody.
Hey, happy spring.
It's nice to see the sun today for a change.
Yeah. Enjoy it now because it's going away.
I know.
Sorry.
So I have two documents to review. One is a proposed list of new courses at the high school. As you know, last time I was here, we talked about some programming changes at the high school, including graduation requirements and creation of new half-year electives. Some of those new half-year electives are a reconfiguring of existing courses, just sort of condensing to the most essential knowledge, and with the goal being to give students a wider opportunity to find areas of interest. So if they're not stuck in one elective class for an entire year, if they can actually jump from one to the next in the following semester, it might spark something, a curiosity piece that they might take with them to the next step. So along those lines, the proposed new courses for 2019-2020, I won't read everything here to bore everyone, but I'll just quickly give the highlights of the course. The first course on the document is the financial wellness. That's the graduation requirement that we spoke about. Our goal is to have, we're kind of in a little bit of a bubble year this year with both financial wellness and civics, because we have to get all of the seniors through civics, which is the replacement for a full year government class. Civics is going to be a half year requirement this year. So we have about 6 sections of civics running next year, but we anticipate with both financial wellness and with civics, we'll probably top out at 4 or 5 sections per year that will allow us to get all the kids through their graduation requirements. So financial wellness is a course designed, just as it says, to expose kids to the ideas that are essential to being a financially literate citizen, to making good financial choices and get themselves started off in the right way. We've had a great deal of interest from the course, including from seniors who it's not a graduation requirement for, but understandably a lot of them are looking forward to taking the course. The second course is something that we've wanted to do for a while. It's a full year anatomy and physiology course. We often joke that, particularly with the junior class, they're all going to be doctors. Every year we have a great number of students who are interested in going into the medical field. The only real medical class that we have is their anatomy freshman elective, which is a half-year course. So this anatomy and physiology course is designed to be more of a full year course, a more in-depth review of those concepts, and particularly geared towards kids who might be interested in going into nursing or the medical fields. Introduction to Engineering and Design, that's the new engineering course that we spoke about again the last meeting that I was here for. It is the first course in a 3-course series through Project Lead the Way. Mr. Stone is going to a summer workshop to get trained in the curriculum. We currently have 3 sections of that course running with grades 9 through 12. The goal would be that for the following year, we'd probably end up with 2 sections of Introduction to Engineering Design and 1 section of the second course, which I believe is Principles in Design. And then finally, the end of the 3-year sequence each year, which Mr. Stone needs to go and get trained in the course. We would have the full articulated program of the engineering program through Project Lead the Way. So we'd be offering about 4 or 5 sections of engineering. We recently hired or proposed to hire a new physics teacher. He'll take the physics load off of Mr. Stone, and then Mr. Stone will be able to do the engineering program full time. Civics we just spoke about is a change from government. It's going from a half year to a full year. I'm sorry, reverse that. From a full year to a half a year. We're also allowing students to take that in grades 10 through 12 instead of having to wait until their senior year. We actually had to cap that this year because I think students were really thoughtful about trying to plan out their 4-year or 3-year plan, and we had 9th and 10th graders trying to get into civics to get all their requirements done right away, but we actually needed to get the seniors through first this year. So again, like I said, I think we have a little bit of a bubble this year with civics, and I think we'll settle out, and then we'll have a little bit more of a mix between seniors, juniors, and some sophomores in that course.
So with those two that are graduation requirements, the sophomores this year, or the incoming sophomores this year,
So the current 9th graders.
right, current ninth graders, we've got to get all the seniors through.
Mhm.
After that, are you going to prioritize the upperclassmen over the underclassmen in order to get the class through?
Well, we
So,
didn't,
so juniors wouldn't take the class. A junior who wants to take the class would take it before a sophomore who wants to take the class?
traditionally, that's what we do. I mean,
Okay.
we don't run into that problem very often.
Okay.
But we would certainly, for example, the financial wellness requirement is going to be a requirement for the current 9th graders. So they will be prioritized going forward
Okay.
throughout the way. Just this first year where we're trying to get everything up and running, but going forward, we'll make sure that that's a goal for us. The last two half-year courses are really electives in the truest sense. Geography of Food and Culture is a course. Our AP Human Geography is a pretty popular course for our 9th graders. We have a good 17 to 20 students every year who select it. And we also have students who really enjoy the course. So this is sort of an offshoot of that. Obviously, it's not an AP course, it's an elective, so lower stress, but it gets kids to look beyond the traditional history, names, dates, facts, and figures, and explore more of the culture side of geography. And then the second course is Issues of Modern American Society. This is, again, a little bit of a shoot off of the Connections course. So we have these topics that come up in the news, like Black Lives Matter or Me Too or Build a Wall, and students don't know how to unpack that because they don't have some of the foundational knowledge that goes into these controversial topics. So the course is designed to be an overview of these topics, and it allows to give students some basic facts so that they can form their own opinions on those controversial issues. So those are the new proposed courses for next year. Every other, we do have some other half-year courses that we'll be running. Public speaking was very popular. I think we're 3 sections of that, which we think is a really important skill for students. The health, which is still a graduation requirement, although we imagine that changing a little bit with the new teacher coming on. That was very popular. Child development, which is a course that we really weren't able to run too often just because of enrollment size and numbers. That has a half-year section. So we're really excited about that some of the standing half-year courses we were able to get back into the mix, because when you start chopping things in half, you have a little bit more flexibility. It's a little bit of a scheduling nightmare for Lindsay, Aaron, and myself, but I think we're at a point now where we're calling kids down and saying, okay, you don't have an E-block, here are the electives that are available E-block, what would you like to pick? Or moving them through their schedule. So, okay, if it's not available E-block, it's available G-block, what could we switch out so you can take that elective? Always keeping in mind that they need to take the graduation requirements and get their core stuff through.
Is financial wellness, is that taught out of the math department or what?
It's mostly being taught out of the math department. It's also being taught by the new wellness teacher.
Okay.
And so what's happening right now is Christina Gamble is actually, she's already gone to one high school. She'll be going to other high schools to look at existing model programs, getting the best stuff from people who are already doing this work in pockets. When I surveyed the local Worcester County principals, lots of them had teachers who were doing either the course and they said, boy, they do a good job in this unit, or they said, let me know what you find, or they said, hey, you might want to explore this area. So Christina's got a lot of different options to go look and see what she can bring back into her own curriculum. Christina's going to write the curriculum, develop the curriculum, using our existing personal finance course as a little bit of a backbone, but also looking to enhance and improve it where we can. And then once the curriculum is written, she'll be co-teaching it in the second semester with the new health teacher. So she'll have already gone through it once, worked out a few of the kinks, and then be able to pass it off in pretty good standing to the wellness teacher.
All of the electives, you don't make a ranking or a assessment as to whether they're college preparatory or honors or?
I don't believe so. I think, let me look real quick. No. Like civics, for example, and this is a nice thing, just a personal bias of mine. Currently we have AP government, honors government, and CP government.
Right.
Now we just have civics. Everybody's in civics. So that's a nice piece. Financial wellness is financial wellness. There's not honors financial wellness. And CP Financial Wellness.
Yeah, I agree, that's nice to have some of those. The notion, it sounds like Mr. Stone is able to bring this engineering program and will continue to learn. It also is starting to evolve a series where you've got multiple years, right? You'd have somebody, so what do we do to ensure that we don't lose any particular year? If Mr. Stone were to choose to leave, I'm sure he wouldn't. Is there some way that you get a second teacher in the?
If you'd like to give me a second teacher, I'm all for it, Mr. Brennan.
Yeah,
I'd be all for it too.
it's,
It's
but-
not all, yeah, Ted's,
I get that it raises a problem, but I also think that it's important that as we start to add a course or a series of courses, if you have a student or a series of students who are waiting for next year and we don't have a backup plan, I don't know whether it's hard to come by that kind of a replacement teacher or.
Well, we got really, Mr. Friend and I were just talking today in the baseball field, we got really lucky with Mr. Stone. He's been just a tremendous asset to the school. We hope that he doesn't go anywhere ever.
Sure.
If he wins the lottery and moves to Hawaii, then I guess we'll have to cross that bridge. The
you
new
can do it
physics,
remotely.
maybe. The new physics teacher also seems like a great guy, and he's very, as Mr. Friend has met him, he's got a lot of different experience, and he's at a really, really high level. So he might be someone who, in a pinch, could do it, but
Would have to
we
be
just don't have the
s-
flexibility to
right.
plan for a second person because we just don't have it.
And this
second person.
is something you'd have to be certified in.
The curriculum is, the Project Lead the Way curriculum is relatively prescribed. I think they give you flexibility once you know the map. You can take little detours off of the map, but you're also, kind of like AP, you're gearing towards a test, and it's also gearing you towards the next course.
Right.
So I think you do need to be trained in the curriculum, familiar with the concepts, so that you can start from there.
I didn't know if I misinterpreted, but it sounded like we were sending Mr. Stone off for specific training in order to
Yep.
be eligible to teach this
Yep.
this particular class to get a lot of the benefits described.
Yeah, I don't know,
So-
I honestly didn't ask the question because it's new for us, and we want to do it the best possible way.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Mr. Stone had like taught engineering at a previous school, if we just said, oh, can we just buy the
Can you
curriculum and
continue
go?
forward?
I wouldn't have preferred to do that option. We don't have to because we got the grant to
Right.
send them to the training, so.
Okay.
We actually just got another $5,000 grant from Project Lead the Way to supplement the funding of materials that we'll need for year two, which is around robots. So we'll need, those robots are about $1,000 a piece.
Right.
So if we have a class of 15, then we'll need 15 robots.
Yeah. And again, I think it's fantastic. I just think we ought to be aware of it as soon as we start to put in place more of a series or a tract, that do we know how to ensure that it stays in play?
And it's a valid point. It could be that, Mr. Stone can teach physics and engineering. The new person that we hired can teach physics, and I'm pretty sure, based on his background, that he can teach lots of different things. Maybe over time, Mr. Stone turns into the engineering 2 and 3 teacher, and the new teacher goes and gets trained in level 1. We do it that way. But we just want to let Mr. Bilica, who will be the new engineering teacher, kind of get in and get his feet wet.
But certainly when we do the next budget, you should ask the superintendent to put training in for that.
I'll remember you said that.
You're absolutely right. I mean, if we want to sustain this, ideally, it's nice if there's some level of redundancy where maybe the physics teacher could quickly move in that spot if we're in a pinch and you're hiring and you have options to go one way or the other. So I think that is crucial.
The other piece, just on these new courses that are required, they would become required for entering ninth graders next year, is that?
Yes, so the 9th graders coming in, the class of 2023, I believe, excuse me, they'll have the full range of graduation requirements. For the existing students, the only thing that we're asking any of the existing students to do is, like I said to Mr. Edwards, the current 9th graders will have to, we're gonna, because they have so much more room in their schedule now, we are going to expect them to take the financial wellness as a graduation requirement. They already came in, they already had to take the health requirement. That's an existing requirement that's on the books. And civics was their government requirement, and that actually went from a full year to a half year. So they have the space to be able to take that one requirement.
So if I'd built my schedule out for 4 years, I'll have at least added an extra half because the civics will have dropped to a half.
And then you could theoretically put the financial wellness in there.
And I likely had a half that I hadn't quite decided what to do with for the other side of health.
Yeah, and we changed the phys ed requirement, so sophomores would have had to have been in a phys ed section next year. Now they don't have to.
Yeah.
So they really did gain a lot of flexibility in their schedule.
Do we have, are there ideas for other new courses in subsequent years? Is the staff, anybody really excited about it or coming up with an idea for another half-year course down the road?
I think honestly, we've been where we are for a while, so this is a lot of change for the high school. So, but what typically happens with something like this is once they see, perfect example was, Mr. Anderson had been teaching behavioral science. So that's not on here because really behavioral science is really introduction to psych and social, which we titled the course. But I'm sure that off of that we talked about abnormal psych or women's issues in psych. We talked about like a whole psych branch.
Okay.
But I think the staff are probably going to want to get their feet in, figure out how to work this because we haven't had a lot of half-year classes because we haven't had the flexibility. And then once they can see what they can do in a half-year class, I think that'll open up some ideas.
Okay.
I imagine that would happen.
Terrific.
Any questions on the courses?
I think it's great.
Do you guys need to vote on it? Or?
Yeah, you do need to vote.
Do we?
Okay.
You do need to vote on the courses because they're part of the program of studies.
And it changes graduation requirements.
We already voted.
We voted.
You
Change
voted to change the
Changes.
graduation requirements.
Change the graduation
Course. Got it.
So, do I have a motion to
I was looking for the,
It's not on there.
anything in the,
It's not
ah,
approve.
so, now I gotta open the title again. So I move to approve the, new high school courses starting, 2019-2020 as presented.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Passes.
That would have been awful if it didn't pass.
I did pass it on the bed. Had to redo the schedule. Okay, the next piece I have to share with you tonight is the update on our strategic plan. And again, I'll just kind of hit the highlights so I'm not reading from a document that you have in front of you. Our first goal, and honestly the thing that we spent the most time on all year, is our curriculum documents. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it is essential to making sure that we give kids a guaranteed curriculum throughout the district. And it was the #1 recommendation from the ask when they were here last year. So the staff have been great. They really have been diligent about working together where needed in the department, deciding who's going to be working on what individual map, sharing the maps across the department, figuring out what's good, what do we want to change, what do we want to add. And we are on track so that I would say, as I say in this document, 90% of all classes will have their finished curriculum maps available for the public by the end of June. The few classes we have left are some of the electives, just because they're just a little trickier sometimes. And all classes will have full completed curriculum maps by the end of next year. So we're really, I'm really, proud of the way that everyone kind of just dug in. And it's not exciting stuff, but it is important stuff, and everyone really gave it the time and energy that was needed so that we can have that to share with the community. And then I can update NEASC and let them know that we did our job. And the curriculum documents that will be live or that will be viewable by the community will be the sort of static curriculum documents. If you're doing your job right as a teacher, you're always updating your curriculum, looking to pull weeds out, plant some new flowers. And so staff will have their own curriculum documents that they'll be working from as well, with those that the community can see as a guide. And then we need to get on a cycle where, okay, it's been 3 years, the math department, you're up. Make sure you review your curriculum documents, freshen them up, so that we don't have the entire staff offline for an entire year doing this kind of work.
Good reason for curriculum director. That's not my part.
Your time is up.
So, do you share that then with middle school so that there's continuity between, going from 8th to 9th, there's fluidity between the 8th grade math and 9th grade math?
I would say that's definitely an area we can get better at.
Okay.
We can definitely get better at vertical teaming, middle high school. I'll just speak for middle high school.
Yeah, I just don't want us to go awry, because I know we've gone kind of awry in the past, I felt, where we haven't really we didn't know what the other hand was doing.
Well,
Which, again, another good reason for curriculum director, by the way, guys.
I guess I would push back a little bit. I would say, I'll just use a couple of examples. One, Larry Waterhouse and Lisa Sypek are in constant communication about the Algebra 1 curriculum, because they teach Algebra 1 at the middle school. We teach Algebra 1 at the high school, and that's a great relationship that's really been helpful. So that's been great. The English department, with the district has had the focus on writing this year. So our high school teachers have been in meetings with middle school staff to talk about what the expectations are for writing. So the high school staff knows what the middle school is giving them and what the middle school is understanding better, what the high school is expecting from day one. So there are places where it's happening. I can't, and then there are some places where it just doesn't align. So what they do in 8th grade science doesn't necessarily align to intro
Agreed.
physics. So I think we can do a better job because we can always do a better job. But I think there are some spots where there is some alignment, but we can do better, most definitely.
There's always room for improvement. Okay.
Standard 2, we continue to look at ways to make the curriculum and the instruction more relevant to kids. This is I will, in all honesty, this is one that's taken a little bit of a back burner because the curriculum has driven so much of what we've done this year. But even despite that, we haven't had as much directed time on this particular goal. There have definitely been pockets where staff will continue to push this forward. I mean, Miss O'Neill with the environmental science class, she's constantly bringing those kids out, making learning relevant. Mr. Stamos in U.S. History 2, I was just in their class today, is giving the students the opportunity to develop their public speaking skills. He calls it the soapbox activity, where they get up on a soapbox and sort of argue for one side or another. And the kids ask and they have a conversation about it as a way to activate the class at the start. It's been really nice. Miss Gamble, in her pre-calculus class, is teaching kids about compound interest, so they can understand that as it applies to student loans. So there are places where we've been making growth, but I would say, again, it's another place where we can always, that's something that teachers are constantly doing on their own. And I think we could do, speak for myself, I can do a better job at allocating time in the professional development calendar next year when we do our curriculum apps as sort of a driver to give folks more time and space to do that work.
If you look back, and I think you answered the question, but if you look back, was it the right choice to the prioritization the way it was at? And does it still make sense for this standard 2 to get pulled into next year? Or?
As far as being a goal for next year?
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be a goal for next year. Mr. Friend has indicated that we might be looking at the strategic plan a little bit differently anyway. And like you said, some of what has happened in Standard 2 is being documented in Standard 1. So it might just be a little bit more of a natural piece. I do think that it was right to prioritize the curriculum because once we have the map, then we can start to, branch from there. So, but we'll see until we get to the strategic planning meeting, I won't know exactly how that's going to go.
I ask because you got to have a plan, but I think you also have to make the adjustments, and I want to make sure that there's time to reflect on, with what we knew, did we make the appropriate adjustments? And just because we didn't get something or work on something, it doesn't, I think, necessarily mean, well, we'll get it next year. It might be that you look at it and you say, it's covered in a different way, or now that we've learned more, we'll make a different decision.
Right. Agreed. The second goal we had under Standard 2 was to just continue our work on prejudice, bias, and intolerance. I think that work continues to happen. The Connections Conference was sort of the culmination of some of that work, although on a sort of a day-to-day level, that doesn't, the conference really doesn't have anything to do with the majority of the students in the school. Well, I think we had about 50 kids or 60 students from the high school, and along with 10 students from the middle school attend the conference. But really what matters to me is sort of the everyday work, and that's some of what the Connections group itself does when it works with the 9th graders and exposes them to these ideas so that we have a sort of a common language around what we're expecting for norms and behaviors. And also when we're looking at the curriculum, we're looking at issues of representation, so that kids aren't just seeing the same faces over and over again, or when they're seeing faces, they're not reinforcing a stereotype. So somebody pointed out that whenever we see an African American in our curriculum, they're either poor or an athlete. That's reinforcing negative stereotypes about African Americans. So the Humanities Department did a lot of work last year, a little less work this year, on going through their curriculum, seeing where certain groups were included. We've definitely freshened up the English curriculum. I know the Social Studies Department is also doing work. The World Language Department always does a great job at this. So that's the place where even if you aren't in Connections, didn't go to the conference, we're still doing our job to make sure the kids are seeing a broad swath of America in different faces. Next year, we're planning on the conference happening again. The informal feedback from the conference was that they wanted more of it. So the attendees wanted it to be a longer conference so they could go to more workshops. The people who came to present also wanted to go to workshops. So we're looking at a sort of like an 8-to-1 model on the full day PD next year, with having folks present twice and be able to go to one, and hopefully offering it to more students at the high school as well. we had an abundance of current juniors apply to be part of the Connections program, along with with the traditional 9th and 10th graders who apply. So we have a lot of kids who have interest in the Connections program, or interested in doing the work. So it's just a matter of now, can we facilitate that for all those kids? Standard 3, oops, sorry.
What if it became a requirement for all of high school to actually be engaged in that?
If it was, if it was a requirement for them all to be,
To be engaged, so to be presenting, attending and present, however it might be.
well, I mean, I think, I know, I'll just speak for myself. I know where the conference or in the work comes from. I know that the intentions are nonpartisan, and that the goal is to help us create a more empathetic, understanding community. But I also understand that sometimes people hear the word social justice and feel that there's an agenda packed behind it. So
Or are we trying to actually, I mean, as opposed to exclude, aren't we trying to expose people to things that might be contrary to what they normally think or believe? So I'm just throwing it out there.
Sure. I mean, I guess I would say that if I'm forcing you to do it, then you're probably less likely to want to engage, because why am I being made to do this when I don't think that applies to me? And I think where we've gotten success with Connections, I'll just speak from that, and sort of the informal feedback that we get from the kids is because no one's made to do it. It's an option for everybody. The 9th graders, if you don't want to participate in the workshops, the parents can say, we don't want you to have the lessons on bias and intolerance, and the kid will just do his math work or his English work. It's completely optional. And so because I think we present it in a way where we clearly think it's important, we clearly have it as a goal, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by our position on these issues. But we're not forcing it on anybody. And I think when we try to force it on people, then it's just inherent. It can be anything, right? We try to force anything on anybody,
True.
and they immediately get defensive, and that doesn't engage a conversation.
True.
So I think our current path is great, and when I've had, we've been doing this now for 4 years. I think I've had 2 parent phone calls with concerns saying, "Hey, I don't want you pushing an agenda." That kind of.
Well, this
that-
is
that-
just
and it's-
an agenda of being informed. I mean,
No,
but,
well,
but,
but
I
just,
understand that people
yeah.
do get agenda. So then maybe it's just you open it up to the whole high school, and whoever wants to attend can. And for those who don't, there's something else that they do for the day.
Yeah, and honestly, it
It's a
could be.
PD day, so it's not a school day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it'd be great, I mean, for more kids, if they want to be involved, to be involved, I guess is ultimately where I'm going.
Yeah, and and I mean, just the connection, again, the conference was one separate thing, but ultimately it's about space. The auditorium only holds so many kids. And I also think that some of the power of the conference was seeing kids from New Bedford and Brockton and Ashland and Northampton and Amherst and New Bedford all coming to the conference because they all were interested in the same topic. And for our kids, the benefit is to know that they're not the only ones who think that this is important and want to spend time and energy doing it. They can have conversations. I think for me, one of the best parts of the conference was seeing the Connections kids sitting down at a table with no kid from Sutton, and they would be talking to those kids and just, hey, and by the way, not about social justice issues. How's your soccer team? Where are you applying to college? Because that's actually what matters. That has to happen too. It can't just be like, what are you doing about racism in your school? I mean, that's not a natural teenage conversation.
Agreed.
So I liked having we liked having the guests from around the state.
No, I think that's great. I guess ultimately, as I said, I'd love it to be open to the whole school, that would thing. I understand space constraints and all of that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've talked to Jerry a few times about trying to get us down to the middle school. I think that could be a place where we could expand too.
Right, and that's
and
the thing to think
the
about, too.
ADL, where the kids are trained, there's a whole separate program for just middle school because some of the conversations are just not appropriate for middle schoolers.
Right.
It's just a little bit different tier.
Right, but if this
So.
grows, I mean, that's something to consider. I mean, as more and more people get interested, you're gonna have a space constraint, which I think would be a great problem to have. But, yeah, I'd love to see it grow, so, I mean, I think it would be an issue to think about no matter what.
I'll tell a little anecdote because I think it kind of speaks to the power of the work, which is after the conference, I got an email from one of my students who saw something posted on a social media site, and it was a pretty angry diatribe against the conference. And I guess the person received some pushback on what he posted. And the next day, the person emailed me He said, Mr. McCarthy, I owe you an apology. And then he and I engaged in a conversation about like where he was coming from, where I was coming from, and we ended on very good terms and feeling like we kind of understood each other. And I don't think that would have happened had the conference not happened, right? So it was a really, to me, that one exchange
That's all
was,
you need.
we're broadening what we're trying to do, and I think that's a good thing, so.
If it was Facebook, there were several posts about it back and forth, most of which were,
I just appreciated the email. He apologized to me, but I told him, I said, wasn't expecting, nor do I think I needed an apology, but I really appreciated a conversation rather than, just throwing something out into the atmosphere and hoping that it landed, so.
But
I think there's a great deal of value to a school system, particularly a high school, that has a great academic program and lots of other extracurricular activity and opportunities that are not just sports or band, but lots of other things to do, including the organic growth of something like this that says we just want to put it on and we want to bring folks from outside and organize it.
But you've pointed to the key point, which is the understanding portion, and that's where we're going, is we don't have to agree, but we do need to understand where each other's coming from. Cool.
Standard 3.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, we agree, so.
Yeah.
Standard 3, this has just been a push of mine for 6 years, which is getting the teachers to reach out to parents in a positive way, not just a negative way. We get so much more back from in our partnerships with families when the first phone call is not, hey, your kid talked in class and I had to give him attention, when the first phone call is, hey, your kid worked really hard today in class, I just wanted to say you did a great job. And the staff, like I'm CC'd on, I don't know, probably a third of the emails that I know that go out there, because I'll have conversations with parents and say, oh yeah, Ms. Hernandez reached out to me, and it's so nice to get an email like that. This will probably not be a goal next year for us, because I think the staff are doing it now more organically. Some people, I was just sitting at home on Sunday, and I had one teacher, and she CC'd me in on 4 or 5 emails that she sent to her class. And then I know, for example, Mr. Marcucci makes phone calls. I think Mr. Loss makes phone calls. So I just think it's something we're now kind of doing more organically, and now because it has been a push, and it'll kind of move off next year. And then the last standard was our new PLCs, which is going to change a little bit next year with the daily advisory. So this year, when teachers had time to collaborate in the schedule because they shared a common prep, they would work together, and the focus, really was to get into each other's classrooms and to see the outstanding work that they're doing. Of course, that's limited because if you're in the B block PLC, you can only see other B block teachers. I think we're pretty good at the high school saying, boy, I heard, Deb O'Neill's doing something interesting with the turtles. Can I go see that lesson, and we'll provide coverage internally to make that happen. But it's obviously a little bit easier when you share that common prep. Next year with the new advisory, there's a slot in one of the day's rotations that the department has a shared common prep in that new daily advisory system. So they'll have a half an hour once a cycle to meet as a department on looking at student work, looking at best practice, looking at assignment, reading an article and sharing it in content-specific areas, so that the world language department is collaborating together on Spanish instruction, not just sort of generalized best practice. So we're pretty excited about that. And then beyond Mr. Friend asked me to include a couple other things. So beyond the strategic plan, we, as you mentioned here a couple times, facilitated the vision committee work to change the graduation requirements, the engineering program that we talked about. The middle school showcase night this year was incredibly well attended. It was a home run, so we're really happy about that. Ms. Baiocchi and Mr. Marcucci, as sort of an offshoot of the internship program, are starting a job shadow day for juniors. So our internship fair is on May 20th. On May 22nd, any junior who gets a permission slip or gets permission will be able to not come to school that day and go shadow at a job. Some of those jobs are the jobs that Mr. Marcucci has developed through the internship program, so that there's almost like a ready-made pipeline for next year. So if I'm a junior and I think I really want to work at Big Brothers Big Sisters, I get to go there in my junior year and see if it's a good fit, and maybe either confirm or deny whether or not that's something I want to do, or I go there and I say, oh, I don't want to do it. Or there's lots of students who have been able to get organic job shadows through parents, friends, and family, which is also very valuable, because on the one hand, the student has an area of interest that they want to explore. they have a connection, a personal connection, the person's gonna be a little bit more invested in making sure it happens because we have that personal connection. And if that goes well, then that's also maybe a potential opening for Mr. Marcucci. And so we're pretty excited about that. And then the last one was the development of the innovations course, the thing we talked about here a few times, where students were able to pursue individual areas of interest and have products at the end. So the Connections course, the Connections conference was a student's end product. One of our students, Nikki Andre, just put on a mental health week for juniors. She had yoga instructors and essential oil people and therapy dogs and panelists with counselors in the junior class, was able to participate. That was a great week that Nikki did a lot of great work on. And we have other kids who've done other amazing things. Laura Dufresne, whose innovations project was her original compositions of music. Composures is the wrong word. Played at the Fine Arts Night, which was phenomenal. So that's been a really great class. We did not get I think because of all the electives, we did not get the interest in that class this year. So we're going to see if we can do it every other year and just sort of cycle it in once every 2 years and see what we get that way. That is it for me. Do you have any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about, I'm curious, you've got a little bit of time on your belt in terms of anything we've done, changed, improved, rechanged again, incoming freshmen and understanding the scheduling and the ability to look out 4 years. I know a year or so ago we talked quite a bit about how do you.
So we did relook at the way that we were counseling kids through the course selection process. So this year, with the idea and the understanding that we changed what we did, right? So kids, their older brother took the same 7 courses, and so they're going to take the same 7 courses that kind of fall into a routine. We, Ms. Baiocchi and myself, were in every single classroom. We were in the juniors, the current juniors, the current sophomores, and the current 9th graders. And we walked them through a 4-year plan. So part of it was explaining the new graduation requirements and explaining to sophomores that they didn't necessarily have to take phys ed, or actually the 9th graders, or sophomores didn't have to take 4 years of science and 4 years of social study anymore. They could pick to allow some flexibility, so that was new for them. And then I imagine the schedule is just about set, and now is about the time, and now that the BVT numbers are through, now we'll go into the 8th grade and have a similar process with the 8th grade as well. So that's something I think we've gotten better at.
Super.
This is great.
Look, my last pitch is to it's an open community event, so if anyone's watching, the millions of people from Sutton. May 20th, Senior Showcase Internship Fair. It's always great to see the community there, always great to see unfamiliar faces, interacting with the students just to see the experiences that they have when they're in their internships. We have kids at UMass Medical. One of our students this year, on first day on the job, she was in the room with the woman giving birth. The baby came out with the umbilical cord wrapped around the baby's head 5 times. She watched the doctor save the baby's life right in front of her. That or the chapter 12 of the government textbook. I'm going to go with the experience in the birthing room. We have kids working with the Uxbridge Police Department. We have kids working at Northbridge Middle School, UMass Medical doing cancer research, working at Pleasant Valley doing grounds and maintenance, so just sort of a wide range of jobs that kids are having the opportunity to experience before they go into the world. And when they come back and they're able to talk to you about their experience, they're just really excited and really want to share with you what they've done. And it's just great to see young people energized and really engaged in what they're doing. So it's a nice affirmative piece for those of us who work in education all day long to see the next generation going off in good steps. And I think for the community to know where they're spending its tax dollars, and maybe if there's a business out there who's looking to take on a really energetic, fabulous Sutton student, it'd be an opportunity to make a connection.
It's Monday the 20th?
Monday the 20th. It's a sort of for the community, it's just come whenever you want. It's from 9 to 11. And the community kind of just filters in and out. For the high school and the middle school, we run the grades through. So the 9th grade goes at 9, the 10th grade goes at 9:30, and so on. And we've made sure that we give the 7th and 8th grade the opportunity to participate as well, so they can see the opportunities that the high school has for them.
It's hard to get
I know
out of
most
work
people
there,
have work. Yeah.
but boy, if you can go, it's just the energy watching the kids interact.
How many years has it been now?
This is our 4th.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been to maybe all but the first one, or maybe all, but it's impressive each year to see how much it's grown in the attendance and just the different experiences that the kids get. That's the applied learning that we're hoping for. And you know, at the very least, they know something they don't wanna do.
Yeah.
And there's value in that too, so I love that program and really impressive, so, thank you.
Our biggest problem now is that other schools are starting, even in the Valley, are starting to adopt our schedule so they can adopt our program. And so the competition that we're gonna have, hopefully we have a head start, but Sergio will, every time I invite a school in to see what we're doing, this is the first rule of internship programs, we don't talk about internship program, because he's worried that as it gets competitive, our kids are gonna be competing with other kids, which is gonna happen. But we really need the businesses to start opening up. We had a conversation with the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce, and they're looking to get a $200,000 grant to sort of expand this whole program throughout Worcester County. And when we met with the Chamber of Commerce folks, they were looking at Sergio and our program as sort of a guide on what they want to bring to other schools, which is great. But what Sergio and I talked to those the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce folks about is that we really need businesses to open up, because businesses will come to the program and they'll say, boy, this looks great, we want to participate. But then if you're a business, it takes work. You have to set it up, you have to organize it, you have to dedicate time to it. That's not something that every business is just ready to do. But if we want the young people to have that opportunity and the businesses want those engaged employees, there needs to be a better system. So we're hoping that the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce can help open some more doors for us.
Businesses have to put up some time, not necessarily expense. Give us a couple examples of what businesses are having to do.
Well, I mean, it depends on the type of job, right? So you have some businesses where they're, concerned about the insurance. You have some businesses where they're a smaller business. When my dad had his shop, he was a mechanic. If I wanted to give one of my students to be an intern or an unpaid employee, or actually, if he, at my dad's shop, if he's doing physical labor by the law, he has to be paid. So then does my dad have enough money in his salary account to pay for a high school kid to learn how to turn a wrench fixing Mercedes? Maybe not. For the bigger companies like UMass, the UMass Medical, there's some HR stuff and paperwork. Melissa Faulkner, who is one of our parents and works at UMass, has been a godsend. I mean, she's just done a tremendous amount of work for us to open up opportunities for our kids that they otherwise wouldn't have. And that's just because she's saw the program, is invested in the program, and knows that it can be powerful for kids, and really has helped us a tremendous amount. So there's just. And then if you think about just sort of how you normally do your job, are you used to having a 17-year-old kid follow you around all day, or giving him tasks to do? Sometimes it's more work to come up with a task than you might necessarily have. So I think businesses aren't used to having, not all businesses are used to having this kind of employee. And so it takes work to set up those jobs so that it's a valuable use of their time and the students' time. I think for us, one of the things that we really try to promote with the businesses, and we get feedback from the businesses every year, is how it adds value to their business. Because as a business, that's what you want to see. It's nice to do the philanthropic thing, but at the end of the day, I got to make money because this is my job. And so I want to take the kid in, but this is going to work for me, and it can't just be, just sort of like a charity event. And so every year we're able to get feedback from businesses that we can then bring to new businesses and say, hey, check out our testimonials page on the website, and they can go to those pages and see. From the DA to WB Mason to schools, if they're looking to take on kids, we have a variety of different testimonials from businesses that talk about the efficacy of the program and the value that are brought to their work.
Yeah. And I'm poking a little bit, if somebody is watching and they're not sure what that really would mean if they wanted to do something.
Then Sergio and I will go anywhere to get an opportunity. And honestly, sometimes we'll go to a meeting and it doesn't work out, but that's okay. Because we know one to avoid, and maybe we get something for next time. But if there's a business out there that's interested and wants to know more, they can come to the fair. They can reach out. Sergio, starting in September next year, is knocking on doors asking for positions, because every year is different, and he has some ready-made positions at this point. But this is a good one. So for the job shadow, one of the students wants to be a railroad sign mechanic. That was his job. That was the interest. That was the job interest that he had. Haven't placed that one before, but I know that Sergio in the fall will be knocking down. Will be going to the Worcester Railroad Station asking for a job for that kid as a senior. So that's how we get and you'll be amazed at what you can get if you just ask. And because we now have a track record of success, I think businesses are more likely to open up for us.
And hopefully, if we're fortunate and the Chamber of Commerce gets involved, you know, the concern is it will hurt us, but by expanding the program, it might open additional opportunities off other people's efforts, which would be
Would be
hopefully
nice.
the positive side, yeah. This is excellent. Thank you, as
Thank you.
always.
Thank you guys for your support, we really appreciate it. See everyone on May 20th.
Yeah.
Next item is the update on the arts with Ms. Dame.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, so I sometimes overdo stuff, but I.
No. Stop it.
So my happy little department, I don't think is very little, there's 10 of us. So there's 5 in the art department and 5 in our music department. We are a K-12 curriculum. You talk about connecting vertical team. We are unified with our curriculums from kindergarten through 12th grade. So that's just my little harp in there. But I was asked to just like, what was some of the things we did this year? So I tossed it out to my team. And this is some of the things that came here. But I want to first state with the list of crazy amounts of stuff here, on my last page, I just said, you know, this does not include our yearly scheduled concerts at the school for this paperwork, which is 2 for each performance ensemble. Are we missing something?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. So 2 for each performance ensemble, along with your class day that the high school will be doing, graduation they'll be doing for the high school band and chorus. It doesn't include the K-12 holiday programs, the 3rd and 4th grade Memorial Day programs. Additionally, the art shows, in addition to the performances for all of the celebration of the arts evenings. Last week was the high school celebration of the arts evening. High school had hundreds of pieces of artwork up, awesome opportunities for students to perform. Wednesday night is 5th grade, and so Mrs. Hare, I believe, has over 300 to 500 pieces of 5th grade artwork she's putting up. And our band and chorus will be performing. And next week, we've got the middle school celebration of the Arts Week with the chorus on Tuesday, and then our band concerts for middle school are on Thursday. So all of those concerts aren't even in any of this paperwork here. This is stuff that most of these people do above and beyond because they want to with the kids to enrich them and provide more opportunities in different ways for them to become artistically intelligent. Now, if I can see if we can actually, I'm praying. He told me I could do it. I could do it. You know technology, that's all I'm saying. Like, where is my pictures now, Christine? Over here. Thank you, lady. Look at that. I'll just scroll. So I sort of took some pictures just to sort of go along with this. I shouldn't say that. I was given pictures. Let's take this back again. I don't have time to take pictures. I was given pictures of some of the things that are going on, and I thought this would be just a nice way to enrich the visual part of what's up here. So here is on the band trip. So the high school band went, as you know, towards Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and Virginia, and this is them competing on the stage. They did receive a superior rating when they were there, which is excellent, and we had a very fantastic time. I just had a blast. So I'm going to just keep on going. As you can see, they had a good time as we went around. Mr. Edwards, your son was in the middle of the Klan with my group. I couldn't have asked for a finer bunch of kids to spend 4 days with. All were, and I mean all, were so, the expectation that you would want where people would look at Sutton and they would be impressed with our children and the way they acted and were responsible. And the kindness we received in return from every place we were was phenomenal. The hotel people, we had kids that got the flu, the hotel workers bringing things up to rooms, people helping us out in various places. And that's because of the twofold. Our kids behaved, they were polite, and they wanted to help in return. And so it was just an absolute pleasure. As you can see, they're there with the monument, having a good time with the pictures. This here, and I'm gonna have the performance so you can hear it in just a minute, just a snippet. But this is where that high school band did the collaborative with the other school from across our country a few weeks ago at Mechanics Hall. As you can see, we fit a lot of kids were on the stage at one time. Mechanics Hall loved this place, actually added an extension on for them, helped out at all times so that they could have this many kids there. It was a fantastic moment of seeing different schools work together, talking to one another, and hearing what both schools have for levels and abilities, and seeing how some of them function differently than we do. And that was an excellent opportunity. Let's see how we go here. So middle school and high school has central districts, which some of you know if you have children in ensembles. So you can audition in 7th and 8th grade or in your high school. And you go into private studios and you audition and get scored. And then the top students in the Central Mass get allowed to work together. They have 2 rehearsals of about 6 hours apiece. They are very lengthy. And then they have a performance. And this is the one where they are on the stage at Mechanics Hall. This is the high school one. Students who get a higher score rating can also audition for all states, which means they'd head into Boston for 3 days. This year we had, in the middle school, we had 3 instrumental and 1 vocal that got accepted in. And in the high school, we had 1 instrumental and 6 vocal. So it was a really great year for us in this functioning. And here you can see a great picture of some kiddos as they were getting ready for the Central District concert that day. Those were some of our chorus kids right there. Our bright finest coming up. What a lot of don't know is that in chorus and band, both Mrs. Kerr and Mr. Falvo on their own time take kids over to UMass. The chorus is in the fall and the band is in January. Kids who wish to do it, you don't absolutely have to, so we'll usually have about 8 or 10 kids in each ensemble. They will go for a full day at UMass. It's a great chance for UMass One to show off their stuff for schools, for prospective intelligent kids. And they will rehearse in various ensembles throughout that day, and in the evening they put on performances. So for example, the high school band, there are 3 bands. That means 3 conductors at UMass will literally conduct about 6 pieces that day. These kids all gather across the state. There's usually almost 1,000 kids, for example, in the band that come across the state for this one day. And they all buckle up there and practice all at once into 3 major ensembles. And then, like I said, that night they get on, they get off, and we have massive performances. My children both did it. It is a great experience to have. And the chorus, once again, has the same opportunity, and theirs is in the fall. And that is, again, on their own time. It's a full day, so they'll head out on a Saturday and come back very late Saturday night. Everybody's tired, but feels really good about another opportunity to step out. I just thought I'd take a picture in here of some of my Disney kids that headed off for chorus. I believe they had, from all I've heard, a fantastic time, having an opportunity to be amidst professionals and learn a little bit about what that means. And I believe they did some recordings, which will be eventually heading their way, so they can actually have them for themselves in the long run. I don't know if I have more. Nope, now I'm going back. Ready? Let's see if I can touch this. Here's an example of something that happens in the chorus programs. Let's see if I could look at this. They give the wrong school, but here we go. So the kids either go to the Worcester Railers or down to Providence Bruins. This is 4th and 5th grade students who chose to go down.
Yeah.
And these opportunities right here for 4th, 5th, in the middle school. So for example, the 7th and 8th grade course separately went to Railers. Our programs have done so well that they're now getting invited back. to do multiple things. So the middle school course, for example, did the national anthem at one, invited back to do the Canadian anthem on another one. They're getting incentives, they're receiving more hats, and all these like to try to make us want to come back. Our core program is really starting to, well, the numbers don't seem to be visually what you would think is building. It is building. There are, when our middle school course went for auditions, Mrs. Wildman and Mrs. Civics have spent years working on how to get these kids to read music at sight. You know, as an instrumentalist, we press a button, we blow, and the sound comes. It doesn't work that way as a vocalist. You've got to control this, and it has to be done here. And they have spent a great amount of time teaching kids to be independent, which isn't that what our job is? To be able to walk away, and as I say to my little kids, your job is to be, I don't need you anymore. And that I can do this on my own. Mrs. Dame doesn't have to sing it and I echo it back, but I become independent. And so, for example, in the Central District auditions, we had multiple children get a perfect score on their sight reading this year for chorus. That shows great strength in where this group of kiddos and where their plans are in the core program to develop them and start to get that depth that will spill out and will grow more as things go along. Okay, now, Kyle told me. I love, you know, I had all these kids. I want to say this right now, you know, Kyle Ferguson, all your kids. I have all of them, and some of them are in their 40s now.
Kyle works for us. He's the tech guru.
So I've got kids in their 40s now. I've been teaching 26.
Your own children, Sue?
No, students. I got students in their 40s because I started 26 years ago doing the elementary band and high school chorus. So you got to think I was 22 and I had 17-year-olds and so forth around me. Life is crazy how that goes. Okay, this is just a snippet so you can see what happens at a central district. So you can see the amount of children that suddenly they're in the midst of, so it's not just our school. They have done, remember, 2 rehearsal days together as a group with a conductor that this one I believe came from Ithaca College, New York. So they are brought from across the country, high-level conductors. And now these kids are amidst 4-part harmony. And that's really special to have boys amidst that many boys in a community. Really gives them perspective.
Is Cam up top?
Cam's up there. We got 3 boys in there. Just spectacular. There's an orchestra, a band, a jazz band, and the chorus for both high school and middle school when you do auditions. So I just wanted you to sort of see some of their opportunities that maybe happen outside that we don't always realize. And then my last one is the band at Mechanics Hall, okay? If you were there, you realized how voluminous it is to have a couple hundred kids on the stage. You can see the percussion all on the top, but what you can't see is there's more percussion to the left playing bells on that side, and there's more percussion on the right hiding on that side. They really are absolutely everywhere. I will say when we look at this hall, depending on my year and what Mechanics Hall has to offer for me for grants, for the past 2 years I've done 5th grade only. Unfortunately, fortunate for Worcester, I know they need more opportunity for culture. Unfortunate for us, we got bumped as 4th graders. I do bring them to a concert every year at Mechanics Hall. This year was on jazz and improvisation and African drumming. So they go for the morning, they do an hour and a half, about an hour, maybe a little over it, knowing their kids. And so they went from African drumming into the style of jazz to vocalists and so forth, and the kids got to see all these different opportunities, and then we come back home. And so it gives them a little bit of flavor of seeing a concert outside, which many don't have opportunities for that nowadays. And they get to see some of their instruments, and vocalists get to hear other choral people that are professionals in the field and get to sort of see what they could be grabbing for and going for in their life. I've been doing that since Mechanics Hall had it begun, so that's probably been about 25 years I've actually been taking kids back and forth. It is free except for the bus that we have to pay for. So the kids pay $5 and we see a professional concert every year. It really is wonderful. Now, I don't have pictures, and I apologize. My poor artists are so busy right now with Celebration of the Arts. But I do want to just talk for a minute because they deserve as much conversation as I just gave to the music end. So if you're on the next page where it says art, I have some awesome art teachers that I am so fortunate to have in my opportunity. At the high school we have, and may I tell you, I didn't receive everything. These poor people worked very quickly to hand stuff to me, so I just sort of snipped it as best I could. In the high school with Mark Bailey, Adam DeZago, and Cheryl Craig, there are 9 seniors with their internship program. So we talk about internships. They've grabbed in 9 students and made them a part of it. 5 students are working on an 8-foot by 18-foot landscape painting, which if they're at Celebration Arts, it's beautiful. It's huge panels going on. 3 students are working with Cheryl on circular paintings. Each are related to different vegetables and fruits for the cafeteria, so that will go as a nice connection there. And 1 senior with an interest in art education is also working with not just Cheryl, but Danielle Valentikal in the middle school. So she's going into their classrooms and she's doing an internship program for art through that. Mr. Bailey, my awesome Mr. Bailey, has photography club that meets once a week after school. And they travel to different locations throughout Millbury and Sutton and photograph, go back and discuss the techniques, what works well, how can you do it more, with anything they own, and I think that's so important. So it's not like you have to have this camera, this specific, he's trying to teach them how to get the eye with the materials that they own. And then we had the first annual holiday art show in middle school. Oop, should have been flipped below it. Kathy Hare, my busy Kathy Hare, that woman puts up more artwork than anyone had ever imagined. So in addition to the celebration of the arts, she decided to do an art exhibit of K-1-2 art at the Santa breakfast. And then she did artwork with the kids for the glow dance, for the sweetheart dance. Of course, she's got, and the Memorial Day, last year, I'm just going to say, she said to me, would you like a couple pieces of artwork up for Memorial Day? I said, oh, Kathy, I would love it. And then I walk in, and there's hundreds of Memorial Day artwork floating behind me, on the sides of me, all by choice. Remember, she does not have to be doing this. The hours of climbing and putting that up on the outside of her time is just spectacular, and it allowed the kids to really feel like they were connecting not just with the Memorial Day, me talking the importance of it and performing that way, but they also got to perform through their artwork as 4th graders and have that up there for Memorial Day. And for 3rd grade, they are also doing, all of them I believe are doing Seft Art, which is coming up soon. Yes, that art night with photography.
Yes.
Yeah, so they all have artwork that they're placing in there that I think they're going to allow to be sold and so forth to help raise money for the SEFT program. Some of that will be actually the teacher's artwork, and then some of it's the students' artwork that kids have offered to put forth for them. And did I miss anything? I hope not. You guys are probably all like, okay, that's enough, lady. Do you have any questions for me as I zip my way through?
I'm always impressed. It's a real testament to the team that we have. When you look at the products that come out, both the pieces, the concerts, the art shows, it's extremely impressive. And we know we have a district where the academics typically succeed. But to have that nice balance with the focus of the arts, it's great. And firsthand knowledge, talking with a couple families, I know one that went on that DC trip, and the child was energized and excited for band next year. To continue that. We went up with a family to Canada, and one of the kids was taking pictures because he's part of the photography club, and he had excitement about that. And just to see these applied learning opportunities that are created for him, it really is fantastic. So
thank you and the team
Thank you.
for creating this for the students.
I want to
It's-
add this, it's really important to our success. I mean, I have extremely organized, hardworking people, thank the Lord. But I also have extremely supportive, not just administration, but educators that we work with every single day that know that us pulling in cycles for lessons and asking for time or putting all this extra stuff that goes, they have recognized that our students do well. All our students do well with this happening, that they're learning to be more organized, they're learning to be responsible, they're learning to follow through on commitments. And these are the things that will make you successful in your English class, in your history. It all spills over. And so they have all tremendous appreciation that I have, that they help with the scheduling. If I call and say I need a change because I hear we're MCASing or whatever, do whatever you need to do. Sue, you'll be fine, we'll be fine. They know that if I hear things coming up, though, I will always move out of the way. You know, the pottery's coming or someone's coming special. I need them to be a part of those experiences, too. So there is that back and forth communication. But, you know, sixth graders, everything's overwhelming. There's Mr. Vandecull and Mr. Frazier on the first day of school when we're about ready to do lessons, sitting in the band with them, talking about highlighting and scheduling and how can we make sure that you're successful for leaving the room. But they came to us so that they knew that we could help make that successful for them. So we are tremendously fortunate for the community we have. If we didn't have that, we'd be fighting every step of the way and we wouldn't have these opportunities for our kids. So I want to make sure that's understood too.
Well, the energy and the passion is unmatched.
I got a great job. How can you ask for anything better? I get to work with kids all day long who are smiling and happy and sometimes so about everything that they're trying to figure out and spill out, you know.
That's not what you said to me the other day.
That's not true, my friend. Maybe about. No, but I really do. I'm very, and you know, I'm very blessed with all your children. I've had all of them, and they enrich my life. They are
So-
a reason to make me happy every day.
I wanted you to come in because I talk about the arts and I can't give it justice. And she's right across the hall from me every day, so I see her in action, and so much happens there. And I can't convey that. I can't say, well, there's a concert coming up, and what you did tonight, I so appreciate, because this is the end of the good part of the school committee meeting. So I want to thank you for that.
And I want to convey again, it's that K-12 curriculum that we're fortunate to have that allows us to link together, so they're not always, that is being on one campus, the blessing of one campus. Because so many schools, you think about it, they go and do school in one and they have an art teacher, music teacher there, and they don't always converse. So then they go to the next school and now they're learning in a totally different technique, in a totally different way, and they haven't decided, okay, we're gonna do numerical for this and the solfege for that. And you know, we've all decided, what are we gonna do so that they hear the same language, the same words, the same pattern, so it's not a change every time they walk to another room. And so even in the general music class, so that they spill over to the next one, they're ready to take on those next levels.
Spectacular presentation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
for
Thank
bringing
you.
your passion,
Thank
because
you
that's
very
so
much.
important for people to see.
I really do appreciate it. And there are a lot of concerts coming up, so please come.
See you soon enough.
So,
Thank you.
so much for combining them.
No room at the end. When you talk about overfilling, we overflow. Isn't that a great problem?
It
As
is a
I said
good problem.
earlier.
It's a good problem to
as I
have.
said,
Okay, next item on the agenda is budget update with Nancy.
As I said,
Strategic
the good
placement.
part of
You could say, adjourn.
hello.
Nothing against you, Nancy.
That's the bad part of the meeting, right?
Actually, not really.
All right. So I will start with the year-to-date budget update. In your packets, you'll find the year-to-date budget update. At this point in time, I really don't have anything new to bring to your attention. Ted and I are continuously monitoring and forecasting out all the GLs as we're getting close to the end of the school year. We should be in a good position at the end of the school year to not expend that allocated amount out of school choice for the high school classroom teachers. This is due to savings in our legal, net metering, and other small miscellaneous accounts. As we get closer to the end of the school year, we'll be able to update you in more detail.
Okay.
So did anybody have any questions in the year-to-date budget? And then I also enclosed a list of the wastewater repairs. It was requested at the last meeting. So I briefly broke it down by how much each item was. And currently, year-to-date, we are over budget in these line items for the combo of the 4 schools by $15,254. Roger Raymond, our facility director, will be coming to a future meeting in June to kind of go into this in more detail. Does anybody have any questions?
So, like road hatch repair, was some of that done out of the parking lot, the parking? So, all right.
Yeah, this is all
Which
what
is
came out of
appropriate.
the,
Approximately $12,000
Yep.
came out of the parking lot revolving account.
Okay. And it's not part of the budget, but I keep thinking about that big tank in the building that
Yeah.
is gonna be a problem
That had the
soon.
bulge to it.
Okay,
The
it's
repairs
not
are-
impacting the
Yeah.
budget now, but it's,
No, but
yeah.
I think that's great.
During
When Roger
Roger?
comes in
Okay.
Yeah.
in June, he can give us a better update on where we stand on that.
Okay,
These
Thank you.
repairs have held, though. There's
Yes.
been no residual issues that,
No, and Roger and I, we look at this list and we think, maybe we've repaired so many things that hopefully we'll have a down year next year and save a little bit of money.
So what are they there's Roger better to ask, what do you foresee coming up in the not too distant future?
it's Roger, yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
Roger.
Preparing, I'm gonna ask questions.
Okay,
yeah.
he'll have the answers for the most part.
Then I wanted to go over student activities. We have 2 new accounts that were created this year in our student activity accounts, one in the middle school and one in the high school. The one in the middle school is the Community Service Learning Club, and the one in the high school was for Connections. So we do need the school committee to approve both of them.
Did we not have, we've had CSL for a while. Is that at the high school level or?
Yep.
So that's making one for the middle school.
Making one for the middle school, yep.
So this is just the account for the
For
the
the student
banking.
activity
Okay.
accounts, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the new student activity accounts for the middle school and the high school as presented.
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and next in your packet, you will find information in regard to a 14-passenger activity bus. And I just wanted to go over this with you, what the advantages are of Sutton Public Schools owning a 14-passenger activity bus. The advantages are both financially and they're for the convenience of our faculty and staff of having a bus on site. This purchase would create more opportunities to provide our own transportation and not having to outsource transportation runs. For fiscal year 20, right now, to outsource one run, we're contracted at $435 a run. So to drive a 14-passenger activity bus, a driver only needs a valid driver's license. You don't need a CDL license and you don't need a 7D license like you do for one of our vans. The driver would have to be CPR certified and they would have to watch a safety training video before being able to drive. This bus can only be used for activity trips. It cannot be used for regular routes to and from school. So it can be used for field trips and in athletics.
And band, if the band has a small group
Yep.
going to UMass and there's 4, 5, 6 kids. There's lots of smaller field trips where we're contracting out, so there are real advantages to having this van.
When we do vocational trips with our special education students on Fridays, they could take it for that. Swim, we do on Wednesdays. We might be able to even put that with our special education students. There's a lot of advantages.
So right now, we happen to have an instructional assistant at our high school who happens to have her CDL license and drives a bus. Well, we can't rely on that person to be there forever. And by having this, it gives us the flexibility that any one of these teachers could drive this van and transport our students.
So is it's like a stretched van?
Yeah,
It's same
14
access as a
it's
typical
small
van?
bus, but maximum passengers is 14,
Yeah.
and it's
I
white.
don't know why, but I'm a
Bus.
visual person. I wish I could see what it looks like. When you enter it, is it like entering a bus or
Yes.
entering like a
Yep.
van? Okay,
Yep.
and then you have that back door. If
Yep.
somebody who needed handicap accessibility, would they be able to use it, or is that?
We
I'm
have
not saying
given-
on a
Yeah,
regular
I don't
situation,
believe
but
so, but we have a handicapped van for that
Okay.
person.
This is not
Yeah.
just a standard van, this is a.
This is, yeah, it's a
bus.
small bus. It would be all white. It would have a municipal plate.
Like the
but-
senior center van or something like that, you'll sometimes see.
Or a hotel or a
shuttle
shuttle.
van.
Yeah,
Yeah, the shuttle.
Almost like the shuttle
Very
van.
similar
Yes.
to that, yeah.
And I guess I'm asking because I just wanted to make sure, again, I don't know a lot about buses and, was there a huge difference between getting one that holds 18 people? When I think about some of the teams, I don't know.
14.
We can only.
That's the cap?
Cap is 14.
Includes the driver.
Yep.
Including the driver.
Yep.
And with 14 including the driver, do you have to have a second? You can have 13 students with one driver.
Yes.
What's the maintenance look like on something like this?
I mean, you would have regular maintenance like you do with our buses. It would be reviewed quarterly.
Same
Same
schedule currently.
schedule, same everything. We bring our buses quarterly. We bring this with them.
The total fleet, we did have a bad year. Total fleet that we budget for is 60?
60.
$60,000. So you have 3 buses and you have 7 vans.
Yeah,
So I didn't do
7
what the
vans.
annual fee would be, but it'll,
So
We'd have to get it
We don't know what it
inspected.
costs to operate it right now, annually.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
What's it cost to operate it annually?
This, so with fuel and repairs, probably fuel-wise, I mean, it depends how much we use it, 1,200 probably for fuel-wise, I'd
Well,
say. It's, it's.
we haven't done a breakdown per
Yeah.
vehicle of this, so I can get that for you. Right now, we're running 7 vans, 3 buses, and the annual cost is anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000 for inspection stickers, tires, regular maintenance of the vehicle.
I mean, I also get fuel reports for our buses. I mean, I can come back and give that to you, and we can get a better gauged idea of what we spend on the fuel.
So how much do you anticipate we save doing that? Which I guess then you gotta know all the other things then.
Well, that maybe was part of one of the questions I had was,
Yep.
how many trips do you think, estimate this past year we've run where it's 13 or less students on maybe a full-size bus? Have we had many of those?
So, we don't have to vote this tonight. I will get you the list of how many trips, approximately how many trips we would have done this year using this van. How many groups of less than 13 kids went out on some type of a trip, where we could use the van. We'll get you an estimated cost of the regular, once you buy it, then you have your regular costs of inspection stickers, inspections, tires, and service. So we can get you an estimated cost of that as well.
If it, you would anticipate using it for some athletics?
Yes.
Yeah, we can use it for our smaller teams, for the boys and girls tennis, volleyball, golf.
So
Baseball.
one of the pieces, and I think I'm misusing this, but it looked like the proposal was to use school choice funds to pay some of the expense. I wonder whether some of the athletic accounts, revolving accounts, or some of the other revolving accounts, and in part, as I say, I haven't thought this through clearly enough. The if you purchase with school choice funds, I wouldn't wanna see us, have to make recurring payments from school choice funds. So that whatever the annual cost to operate, if we thought we would be pulling that out of school choice, then I worry about getting into a regular expense covered with it.
But I would think that that would have to be part of our regular operating budget.
Yeah.
We did have a tough year. I mean, we, you know, as we've gone through and tried to make the budget work every year, when, you know, just a few years ago, we were budgeting $80,000. And I think we reduced it more. I'd have to go back, I don't have the number in
think it
front of
was-
me.
I'm not positive, but I think it was 80 and we reduced it to 60.
Yeah.
Because we
So,
were going under.
but again, I think that once you purchase it, there is clearly going to be savings, because we're not going to be renting buses, and those bus costs keep going up.
Well,
I don't-
$400 a run, 60 grand divided by $400 a run, plus whatever the operating expenses are. It should be very clear, but it seems like pretty straightforward math to get in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, if you factor in the total cost of the van, well, it's gonna take a heck of a lot of money, a heck of a lot of runs to get that money back, but over
Total
4 or
cost of the
5
van
years.
will be an expense to us.
Sure, oh, no, I understand that. Once we buy it, that's what- then there will be some, obviously, regular operating savings. And we'll get you that, the total.
How about
Approximate.
life expectancy?
Yeah.
I think on some of the larger buses, the frame has a life expectancy, and I think we've replaced engines
We did
in the
one.
past.
One
Was it
engine.
one ages ago.
You can see by the list of vehicles that we have, our vans do very, very well, because
Yeah.
we maintain them, and we keep them running. Not that the buses don't. You know, the buses are run every single day, or some of them are run every single day, up and down through the town of Sutton, so they get a lot of wear and tear. You know, and most of the vans are doing highway runs out of district placements. So, you know, again, until we've never done this before. Most of this is the latest thing. All schools are buying these
So-
because,
Whoever's
Yes.
selling them might have
Sure.
some data on
Oh, yeah.
what are the major replacement components, how long can you expect the bus to last?
life expectancy.
Yeah.
And I will say, I do think it's a great idea, because, again, as you say, you see them in a lot of schools, it opens up some flexibility. One other question I had, and again, don't know much about this, but I've noticed as I drive by a lot of schools and you see these white buses parked, a lot of them have a little something on the back that says, you know, courtesy of, or there's been some sponsorship. I don't know if there's an opportunity for that, but even at one of the schools next town over, they have several white buses, and many of them have different businesses on them. It's often banks or things like that, and I don't know if they offer scholarships, grants.
You would have to do a policy. We'd have to look at a policy to see if we allow those types of sponsorships.
Okay.
There is a policy.
There is a policy. I mean, I just haven't looked at it. It's not one of my regular reads, looking at the policy manual. We just have to check that to see if that would be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Look into that.
You know, maybe one of the local businesses might be willing to sponsor something like that.
I have to admit, I was thinking one of the long, just big Ford or Chevy vans, like the extended passenger, and maybe those are only 9 or 12,
Yeah,
not 14.
smaller.
Have
You can get 15 passenger, like, big vans, like the
Yeah.
traditional van.
traditional white vans that you see that are vans? What's the price like? So for 2 more people to get this, does it last that much longer? Are the prices comparable, or is there really a cut where you say, man, if I could get 14 on it, it opens up for that much more?
Well, there are certain sports teams with equipment
Yeah.
that the two extra people, or the 14-passenger van makes a big difference. Excuse me, golf, for example, with 10 kids with golf bags,
Will fit on this, but wouldn't fit on the other vans?
not necessarily.
Yeah, that might be
Yeah.
I guess I wanna know necessarily how we looked at and what we wanna use for.
You need it.
Because once you buy it, that's the course you've gone down, and
Yeah.
17, if we went with that other.
With a larger van,
Yeah.
the max you can have is 14 passengers, so we know it was,
and that's based on regulations and how many passengers you
Right.
can have. And some of the extended vans that aren't, the almost
white
minibuses
one,
you're
right.
talking about, what's their capacity? And if you look at that and it's 32,000, I'm making all of this up. It's 32 and it's still, the golf clubs fit in the back, or this isn't just for golf, it's for other things, and it makes more sense in that fashion. I guess I just would like to make sure that was at least considered.
I would also have to look into the driving with the licensure, because I know for the 14-passenger bus, you need a driver's license and the other stuff I mentioned, but I'm not positive with that type of van, but I'll look into it.
Probably still need a driver's license.
I would think.
I would think
but-
that.
I should hope so.
But
Maybe if
might
you
be
stay in
more
state.
than that, I'm not sure.
So we'll table this for the meeting on the 20th? Or is that enough time, or do I do it to June?
Is there a?
what my
urgency?
goal is to have this in place for the start of school next year, to reach out, so for instance, if the arts department is looking to do this, and other departments, that we set up some CPR courses for those people to participate in, or they can participate with the fall coaches. They have to get updated every year, have them participate as part of their PD, so that they're able to drive the bus. So we're gonna get an estimated cost for regular maintenance. We wanna look at approximately how many runs we think this could do in a given year. And that's gonna be a real estimated sense for that. Life expectancy for these vehicles, sponsorship, and other options for vans that can hold 14, including the driver, and what the cost comparisons would be.
Or if it was 10, including the driver, is that really limiting?
I would say that we want to max this out
Yeah.
to as many students and staff, as many as possible. Because I could see something where the tennis team goes, and,
How many are on the tennis team?
well, it could vary. So you might have
We don't have any numbers, is what I'm
About
saying.
10.
10 have to go,
Yeah.
10 have to go.
10. And the tennis rackets might fit with them, unlike the golf clubs.
Maybe.
That would mean
I
that
don't
none of
think
the
it's
other
unreasonable to
places
have a
would go.
sense of what do the numbers typically look like. I feel as though we're set on a 14-passenger large item, and there might be different alternatives that are more cost-effective.
I can tell you that, I was looking today, and the tennis, golf, and volleyball teams all are 14 or less, because I wrote them down that they would fit in the bus.
Yeah, tennis is 10.
You need to have to play the match, but that means you're
Oh.
leaving people home.
I see. Got it.
Yeah, and then you've got your driver.
So I think about, the National Honor Society. I talked to Ted about this today and said, he's like, I'm not sure. I think there's probably more than 13 that go. So, again, I just think the larger the better. You can then have a faculty member bring their vehicle and follow, and it gives us more flexibility. It gives us more capacity. But we'll get prices on, see what other districts do. Are they buying, is there some districts that just go with 12-passenger vans? And what are the costs associated with that? So we'll get that comparison as well.
Thank you.
Starting at 35.8, seating for 15. Beats me.
Good try.
Less than 60.
Oh, yeah.
The next item is to revoke school choice seats. Mr. Friend?
So I went back and I looked at where we are with school choice. And I know that we've had philosophical discussions about school choice. And I have my own philosophical opinion on school choice. But as I look at what's happening in the lower grades and how we're not adding school choice in the lower grades, there's going to be a point where our school choice is gonna correct itself on its own as we move through the next 10 years or so. I've also lived through being hired here in 2010, and we survived through that very difficult financial time in this district. My first 2 years, the town didn't give us $400,000. They gave us no money. And we had, fortunately, a cushion in our school choice revolving account that allowed us to survive some difficult times. And so when I looked at the number of students interested in 9th and 10th grade, and I looked at our class sizes, I thought, it's not ideal, but I think we should look at least bringing in, because even though 8 families have shown interest in 9th grade, it's rare that we get them all to come. And so I think for long-term financial planning, knowing that we're gonna lose it on the other end sooner than later, I'd like to make sure we capitalize and build up that account as much as we can, just in case we go into a recession. I'm gonna rely on this fund to bridge the gap through tough economic times. And so that's why I'm gonna recommend to the committee that we have a total of 10 students that have applied for school choice in grades 9 and 10, 8 in 9th grade or 8th grade going into 9th grade, and 2 in 10th grade. And it's my recommendation that we change this, not 8, but to open up to 10 students school choice between 9th and 10th grade.
What, if any, is the scenario that a student would get sent back to their sending school?
Once you take a student as school choice, they become your student.
So if you had numerous disciplinary situations and, it was something where, you almost have like an expulsion type scenario, you still own it, there's no...
So let's say you had a situation where you had an expulsion and a student had to go to a different a collaborative. So they go to Project Grow, which is our collaborative. Then the cost of that goes back to the sending town. That's not a cost that we incur. However, if you have a student who, the biggest thing I worry about is cultural. You add 8 kids in 9th grade to a mix. They're new. They're coming in. They're new to a system. There's always going to be some question about do they fit in well with the current class of students? Those are the things we weigh. We have so that being said, I am concerned as I build a budget, and I don't know why I don't hit myself in the head every time and say don't be a dingbat, Ted. Every year our budget goes up $600,000-$700,000, and we receive $450,000-$500,000 in new revenue, and we have to find savings in other areas. That hasn't changed in all the time I've been here. It used to be a lot worse, so that's why I'm making this recommendation. It's more economic than anything else.
Is it written somewhere? I heard you read the numbers, but
So
I didn't.
Yeah.
I just got the latest now. So what the motion I would say would be is, I move to revote the 10 school choice seats that are, the 8 school choice that were open in 9th grade, to vote to approve 10 school choice openings for grades 9 and 10 next year.
And at the beginning of this, you described what I think was several openings that drove you to that, which was, I think it's started with, originally we had looked at some numbers and we talked about 9th was a good entry point, and we had placed numbers on 9, and I think a few minutes ago you had said we had 8 applications, but we don't know whether all of them would be interested.
Correct.
And then you went on to list lots of applications in lots of other grades, that if we were to approve this, you think there are chances?
No, this is just 9th and 10th
Yeah.
grade. No other grades.
We made that decision because I think we determined it was more predictable. At the high school level, the numbers typically go down
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons, but it was also more predictive because you have a span of 4 years. If we had entries throughout the other grades, it's
This
harder
would
to
only
correct.
open up the seats to 10th grade also. It
Yeah.
wouldn't
Correct.
open up the seats to any other grades.
Yep.
No other
And you would
grades.
open it to 10th because,
There are a couple of applicants.
so we're, chasing's the wrong word.
And the
We
number's
think we
low.
could fill.
Yes. Now, there's no
What's the-
guarantee
what's
they'll
the
come.
number?
The number for that class is
You said it was low. What's
90 something
A little less than
for the
that.
sophomore class.
So the
Next year's
current ninth
current-
grade
current
class,
grade.
Sorry, the current, so the current ninth grade class, sorry, I don't know the.
but that would be the 10th grade class we're talking about adding to.
Yep,
Yes.
and the.
What is it?
I have 89 for the
The current ninth grade?
89, what do you got for,
Yeah,
what do you got for 10?
for 10, I had 103, in grade 8, 117.
Oh, wait a minute. So current ninth grade, that going to 10th is 89.
Which is we were opening up a couple of seats.
Right.
And we currently are 103 and 10, how many in 11?
I have 82 for 11.
That's a very
And I think
And 12?
eighth,
108.
yeah,
Yeah, I was trying to get a sense of class size,
Right.
right? Because we were saying it was low.
So 89,
It's average.
next year's
89,
class,
103,
early numbers for
82,
next year's
108,
class are pretty low, right? Because there's a lot of,
next year's class will be around 80.
which would be the ninth graders.
Correct.
Yep.
The current ninth grade class that we're saying is low, based
Is
on the
89.
numbers, is a little more than the current 11th and a little less than the 10th or 12th. I didn't do the average of 108, 82, 103, and 89, but I'm guessing it's about 92.
I think even with 2 seats, it sounds like it would still be low.
Yes.
It would be,
For the next year's 10th grade class, it would still be low.
I-
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit higher than the 11th. So depending on whether you want to do mean, median, mode,
Yep.
I don't know how you want to twist it.
I would say that the staffing of the high school is built on, having comfortable numbers in class size, very comfortable numbers with 100 students. 4 teachers per department. So your class sizes are very, very good at those numbers. You still have some classes that, because of scheduling, might go above 25. But the average teacher load is probably between 17 and 20 students, which is a very reasonable, I believe, class size in a town like Sutton, our high school. But yes, I'm chasing the money. To answer your question, I'm chasing the dollars.
So I'd like to call a spade a spade. We're chasing the dollars. It's easy to chase the dollars. And when you chase them enough, you look up and you think, oh my gosh, and we've been here in the past where, how do we get out of what we've done? It's encouraging that we're only doing in the upper grades, that you can say, oh my gosh, what have we done? And kind of work your way out of it quickly. When you do it in the lower grades, it's a lot longer. Philosophically, chasing the money for school choices.
How many applicants usually accept enrollment?
It varies from year to year. I remember 1 year, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, there were 5 or 6 applicants and no one came.
Yeah.
And so it just fluctuates. And as I said, this is the end of the good part of the meeting ended when Sue left. Because then you get into how you afford to keep our school system running. But I'm telling you that we got nothing coming up through our elementary school and school choice.
Yep.
When we haven't opened a spot in a lower grade, we did last year. I think we opened up a couple in middle school. I think I learned my lesson. I think you just avoid that, and the philosophy of school choice for this district will pretty much go away in the next 4, 5, 6 years if you want it to go away, because the numbers won't be there especially if you're only tapping coming into our high school. And so, yes, I'm chasing the dollars, trying to make sure I have what I consider like our free cash for the public school system, like the town's free cash, which is our school choice account line. Because I've lived through the difficult times, and I want to make sure that whoever follows me down the road eventually will have a little bit of money there to make sure it lasts.
We lived through the difficult times, and school choice
Yeah.
did not save us. It was lots of debates and discussions. It slowed down some pain.
It's not gonna save, you're absolutely right, but it'll ease the pain a little bit.
Learning to live within our budget was painful and the appropriate thing to do. It's the times when we've said try to chase revenue. It's not a business we're in.
Do I have a motion from someone?
I'll make a motion to revote the 8 school choice seats that were open. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
To revote the 8 school choice seats that were open for grade 9 and vote to approve 10 as presented.
For both
Grades
grade
9
9.
and 10.
Grades 9 and 10.
Right.
As presented.
Do I hear a second? We can still have further discussion with a second.
We don't really discuss without emotion, but that's
Yeah.
different.
Okay.
The other item on there is a non-starter. To open up and keep kids in the district. It's not it's a non-starter.
So do if they move out, the other town is paying us, or are we just taking this on then? So
Paying through school choice.
paying through school choice?
Yep.
Meaning we're paying,
They would become an automatic school choice to us. So
So
if it was
they're-
a student that
so
was
they're-
here,
I'm sorry, is this a non-starter?
but it's a non-starter, this is not an option. That's the other one you were asking about, if somebody moved out?
yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be it, so if somebody moves out and they move to Millbury, and they wanna continue to go here, and we've got in our policy that they can continue to go here, does that mean that Millbury pays us as if it were school choice, or do we not get the money from Millbury and it just becomes our cost?
So right now, we have a policy that allows high school students, if they're enrolled in our high school, to stay under school choice. So if they move to Millbury, their freshman year before October 1st, they moved September 15th. They live in Millbury, we get the $5,000 school choice money from Millbury. So yes, we would still get school choice. What I'm telling you though is that I reached out to Mike Long. He's advising based on his research that we leave it alone in the high school and we don't enter into going down into the lower grades. There's a question of whether you can do it, but it's not something that I would recommend us doing.
I don't hear a second, so the motion fails, and we'll move on to the next item.
So,
And that is to discuss and vote increased fees for use of school facilities.
jumping around. I skipped the number there. So we were asked to, to bring this forward to the school committee, to look at our current fee structure. We did reach out to Auburn and Douglas to get an idea of what they're charging for their facilities, and you have that in your packet as a comparison. And what I would say is, when you look at what these other towns are charging, I think they're all pretty close to being in line with one another.
Group A is school.
Group A is town, nonprofit,
Recognized school or
Youth
civic.
league.
based in Sutton.
Exactly.
Okay.
is Group
Yeah.
A.
Okay.
Boy Scouts, things like that.
And then Group B is nonprofit with the majority of participants regarding in Sutton.
Okay.
So if you had, for instance, an AAU program where, half the kids come from Sutton,
And Group C is like for-profit dance companies.
Okay.
So I don't have a recommendation to the committee. We're bringing this forward to you for information because a member asked for this information. Do I think if we went up $100 to use our high school auditorium to $800 a day, do I think that that's gonna scare away dance companies from using our auditorium? I don't believe it would. The only other fee that, I think using, we're not, the high school auditorium's the big draw, a gymnasium is a big draw, a cafeteria's a big draw. The early learning center auditorium is not a big draw. We're not getting large groups running that out. The only other,
I just look at this, like I was looking at Grafton's too, and they're per hour. They're actually $120 per hour for their high school auditorium.
Grafton? Oh, you
Yeah.
took, I'm sorry, you got Grafton,
I
I'm
went
sorry.
online to
I'm
pull-
looking.
I'm sorry, yeah, I went online I was just curious who was charging what. So do we charge for custodians in addition to the auditorium space, correct?
We charge $40 an hour, and that's combined to pay for the custodian and electrical costs and so forth. So that's
So
all
we
rolled
don't
up.
charge more if like our conditioned air is on, we don't charge more if they're
We do
dealing
not.
with our lighting or
We do
any of,
Well, the lighting, so the energy costs are rolled into that $40 an hour. So that is something I think we might want to look at and look and say, do
yeah,
we
'cause
make
I
that,
think
we make that
we're
$50
pretty-
an hour?
You know, we've become pretty cheap just in comparing it to small schools across the state, large schools across the state. Yeah. So I think I'd like us to look into this a little bit more. Our rates for the facility, for what we have to offer, I think whoever gets this is getting a great deal compared to just other things. And I think we need to be competitive in the market, relatively speaking, but I think we also need to get compensated appropriately and reasonably for what we have and what they get to use at our school. Because I watch our parking lots fill up, I watch people using all of our facilities across our grass. I know what our wastewater treatment system's like right now, so, yeah, I just get concerned about that. So I'd love to see us revisit this a little bit more than just a couple schools.
Do you have a sense of whether the money you're bringing in is covering, and I know there was at one point or another, it was some damage to, I don't know whether it's a curtain or something that was really, it wasn't malicious in any way.
But that
The
should
funds
still
we
be-
bring in, do they cover the expenses and keep sufficient monies to keep the facilities in shape, or?
Yes.
Because I know
And-
some of these places, now, do we ask anybody for their insurance?
Yes, they have to provide
Okay,
insurance.
The $1 million, okay,
Yes.
okay.
And the
So-
electric is the one where you said we were 40 an hour right now. It's possible the electric might be more appropriately.
Well, I think what we do is, we lump the custodial costs and the utility costs and miscellaneous costs into that one fee. Do I think, so depending on who's working, the custodian cost could be $26 an hour, or it could be $36 an hour. So depending on who works, so that's something that I think we should revisit. The hourly rate, again, I just need some guidance from the committee. Do you look at our auditorium and say $700 a day? Are we looking at making it $800? Is this something we maybe talk about at our summer retreat and get some ideas in that environment and then bring it back on public television? I'm not sure I just need some guidance from you guys as to, because I don't think we're not the cheapest, but we're not the most expensive either. We're,
No, but like I said, I'd rather see us by hour versus by day. Is really where
oh, is that what you want? It's
Well,
not- that's what
but that's part of it, that's part of it. I think we just, as I said, I think we need to revisit what we charge to truly ensure that we are covering for the wear and tear on our facilities and the cost for the conditioned air, the cost for electricity, the cost for our wastewater treatment, cost for our water usage. I just think there's a lot that goes into that we may not necessarily have considered before, and I think it only appropriate if they're using the facilities that they should be bearing the cost of
Sure.
doing that.
Certainly for Group B, I think it's important that facilities are available without losing money. And so if you think the rates aren't losing money, I don't think it's something that we need to be making money on, because we're talking about another $100. We're not talking.
Yep.
On the Group C, again,
So
I'm
that-
not as alarmed. I think it's nice to be able to offer the facility, so long as we're offering it, we're comfortable that we're protecting the asset and that the
Mhm.
natural wear and tear is covered. And
Up until last year, we had built that up in just like 3 years up to $50,000.
Right.
Now, you're right, we're putting that over here, built into some of our costs, our electricity costs that are coming out of our operational budget. And we're kind of creating another little pocket of money here that we can use in a pinch. But overall, do I think we're way ahead of covering any costs, any damage, anything? I would say, yes, I would say
You think we are?
absolutely. Because the facilities are open anyway.
Right, but we need to staff them. The electricity, if we're truly setting our electric so that it's off in times when we're not there, then when it's on, whoever's got it
Sure.
on should be paying for it. People aren't always flushing the toilets. I mean, especially if we've got a wastewater treatment system that's not necessarily the happiest right now. To continue to put this load on, when I drive by the school and we've got full lots, and I know in there are tons of kids who occasionally like to flush toilets multiple times and flush things down toilets. I just want to make sure that shouldn't necessarily go down there. I just want to make sure that we're covered. I just want to make sure that we're covered. Yes, we've got a great facility, and I'm also of the mind now, being in business, that we've got a great facility, and if people want it, they should be paying for it, and we should be able to make sure that we cover our costs and then some.
How much rental is done over the summer months when we're not in school?
The big push is really the spring, right?
Yeah, they just had another one
There's
this.
There's a few dance companies, but the other thing is the custodial charge, 40 an hour. It's not just like after the event. I mean, the custodian, from the time they unlock the door, these
Right.
people are being
Right,
charged the
Right.
whole thing. And then they have an additional auditorium supervisor fee of 50 an hour
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
So you
Which is-
just don't, I don't know. I mean, a couple of the dance companies wanted half-day events, but I think you're making more with the full day, because they don't always use it the full day,
Yeah.
but they're paying the 700. So I think the hourly, for them, I think you'd lose money.
So I look at it, I'm not as concerned about the hourly. I think the opportunity, if we're reasonably in line with the other schools, I think the opportunity, and I don't know if it's an opportunity, it's more, maybe it's more appropriate that we up the custodial fees a nominal amount. Is it $5? I don't know, but something just to.
And
well, and
some
I would say,
places-
without doing a lot of math or spending a lot of the energy, if you went from 40 to 50 an hour, because you want to make sure you're covering the electricity.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
the
I'd love to know
custodial,
what it costs
great.
in a certain amount of a block of time, say for instance, sorry, I just want to know that. But I'm also thinking, here's the other thing too, as far as people half-day and full-day, is with a lot of these, I've seen them break it down into, here is your half-day cost. If you go beyond that 4 hours, that's your limit for this amount. If you go beyond that, there is an hourly charge.
Of course, then you have to manage it. If you say they've got
Agreed,
got
but
it
if
for
you've
the
got the
day, you don't
custodians there
manage
too,
that
and
aspect.
you've got a stage manager, you should be able to have them appropriately from beginning to end of projects so that they can
Put that
open
on
it up
event
and close it.
manager.
What was
Yeah.
that?
They're not an event manager.
I would keep it simple.
Yeah.
If you wanna charge more money, we charge more money. I think you just, do I think it's unreasonable to say that you pay $60 an hour for custodial electricity, those things? Is that an unreasonable amount of money? That's something we can debate. Do you go hourly, or do you go to $850 for our auditorium? We do have a beautiful auditorium. We have a beautiful space. Is it worth $850 a day?
There are an awful lot
That's-
of dance companies that aren't thrilled with the floor. So it's a beautiful auditorium, I like it, but it's surprising some of the feedback you get. Regardless, I think that how much time
So
you
does that
spend
mean
on it
we
is
cut our
not.
price down because they don't?
No,
well,
I think that you
Well-
should, on a regular basis, look and say, is this out of whack? And we look and it doesn't appear to be out of whack. I don't hear concerns that we're losing money on it.
But I
think-
don't know if we're truly, you're really confident that we're covering all of the costs associated with having a building open and having a building used?
Well,
Including, because, if we think about it too, we're talking about it's full use of the property, so it's wear and tear, like I said, not only on the inside of the building, but the outside too, the parking lots.
Kids might use the gymnasium, the jungle gym in the back.
Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of all those things down to the nitty-gritties. Especially if we're being, we're trying to live within our means and everything. I wanna make sure that we're covering everything.
Why don't we table this for the summer retreat?
Yes,
and I think we're just simply, this shouldn't take long. This should be, okay, to make sure we cover everything, you're gonna charge this, this, and this. We all go with it.
If we weren't gonna table it, I would simply be saying, why don't we go from 40 to 50 an hour on the one recommendation?
My biggest concern is the wastewater treatment.
that's
That's
my
my
huge,
biggest
because
concern.
when I see the
Got it.
parking lots full of people, I know there are people flashing.
Yep.
So,
And at $700 a day, or $250 a day, if they're in there for 8 hours, how
There's
many
a lot of-
times is that toilet being
that's a
flushed?
lot of flushing. Like I
Um,
said, depending on the
That
age of
$700 or $250 isn't gonna do anything, when the wastewater treatment system needs major repairs. That's my concern.
That's my concern too.
I think getting the expense of that one, that's a good question.
And I don't know how you put a dollar figure on that, but no.
I don't know either.
No,
And
and that's a challenge, but if we can at least, for the most part, cover, or for the full part, cover all of what is truly expensed at that. Plus, it also takes a bit of administrative work to set it up, to make sure that things, so there's a lot of hidden costs in there, and
Yeah, Di.
Yeah. Right, 'cause
does
you're our
tremendous
event
job.
plan.
Scheduling.
Perfect, we can pay you
Booking all
more
of
for
this.
you to be at the events every time, so you open it up and you
Not
close
at
it
the
down.
events.
You know exactly
You're
what's done.
managing the events,
Uh,
getting them
I
situated.
knew you
Get
wanted
us
to
a
do
cost
it.
per
The
flush.
guy's like, no
Yep, so-
way.
Can you get us a cost per flush?
I was gonna say, we could charge a flushing
Alright,
fee.
so we'll
Yeah,
table
So,
that.
flush
so
fee.
can you come back up here? Can you talk about the music program again, please?
It's a per flush fee, but
flush
it
fee.
depends, are you flushing up or you flushing down?
Matter.
I can tell you that Justin is meeting with someone in regards to the floor tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
So one of the things we are looking at doing is buying a floor, and then we rent the floor out. So we are exploring what it would cost to buy a floor that dance companies use, that roll up. And so when the companies come in, we say, we will rent this floor to you for X amount of dollars.
Do we need the floor, or we just think it's a good rental?
They bring floors in.
They bring-
Right,
floors
goes
in,
in.
so many of them, and what also is very difficult, as Justin has explained to me, is because of the shape of our stage is sort of unique.
One
That
entry.
means when they're asking for what the dimensions of the floor are, he's like, well, do you mean from the edge to the back? Do you mean from the fire lane to the side? Do you want from the curtain?
So we should have
If
a little
he can
picture.
say-
Seriously, we
He
should have a
can
little
say, we
drawing.
own this floor that I can guarantee you this is the exact dimension. If you would like to use
Yeah.
this floor, you can rent it from us and then it's guaranteed, rather than them hauling in their sections, bring it, and we control now.
Right, and getting a stage left and a stage right would help also, but we probably can't roll that in.
I agree with you. So there's some advantages of having your own floor, but he's meeting with someone just to see what that's like tomorrow, kind of thing.
So we have some comps. We're within this ballpark. given me your suggestions, but I do think this has to be done together. I'm gonna have to, because you're deciding these rates, so. I think putting this on the summer retreat and kind of just hashing out, or have a subcommittee look at it.
Let's try it with the retreat. There's incentive there to
I could do this,
move along.
subcommittee.
Next item is to select the date, venue, and agenda items for the retreat. I sent out availabilities to everyone, and it looks like
Wait up. Unlike the Kentucky Derby.
It looks like the winter is the week of July 15th through the 18th. There are a couple people who are not available on the 19th. I would propose that we do it on a Wednesday or a Thursday, because it looks like several people are away on vacation the week before. And I would also should make a recommendation that we do it at the school in Ted's conference room. That has seemed to work out well enough.
And all we
In the
need is
past.
a sandwich per person. I don't need a whole platter.
So, I
Sandwiches
guess
for you.
for the same reason,
Just take veggies,
if that was the
okay.
case, I would push more for the Wednesday
Okay.
because of the
The
two people
17th.
that are out. It's a lot harder to, I don't know, for me, it's
Okay.
tougher to extend the vacation. It's better to do a little bit of a buffer.
Right in the middle. That's fine.
And absolutely, the school has worked just fine. We're not
Yeah.
paying rental fees.
Oh, yeah.
The
Okay.
custodial fees are maybe going up, but, you know, we'll-
I'll clean the place myself. We can go on a
Alright.
budget, we can all clean it.
You don't
ourselves.
like Mondays, huh? Just, there's a
I
couple
would
people
prefer
come-
Monday. Monday would be my
Monday's a
preference
heck
because
of a
work
lot
hasn't
easier for
jumped up
work.
yet, but
Would be my preference to.
I
Oh,
could
the heck
do
with
Monday.
it. Then do Monday.
Then-
Fine,
Yeah.
Monday's
I
fine.
I could do Monday
Monday's
the
fine.
15th, that's fine.
It's a lot easier than if I show up for a couple of days and then disappear.
yeah,
Somehow they
That's
don't
fine.
notice me as much when I'm not there on
that,
Mondays.
that would be my
July
preference.
15th.
Monday, if that works.
Okay, July.
I just,
15th.
I'm away
If it-
quite a bit before then, so I just wanna get
If it-
everything.
So if it
planned,
doesn't
right.
work,
No, I'll make it work.
Yep.
Money works, we'll make it work, no problem. July 15th.
Yeah, we're both gone the week before.
That's fine. We'll do it the week before that. We'll get it all put together, get it to you guys.
So you can go on vacation,
I mean, I don't know why I worry. The conversation just takes care of itself anyway. The agenda kind of dictates what we talk about.
8 o'clock start?
Sounds good to me.
sooner the better.
Okay.
8 AM.
And we've been collecting agenda items. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of a policy EEAG.
We're not doing any agenda items, or you've got a bunch you're going with?
I know we've been writing things down. If you have something, please.
The only thing before we went off is just the standard, I think it's very important that for the summer retreats, we're talking, but we're not voting on items, we're not deliberating, so that people don't, while it's an open meeting, shouldn't feel like there's conversation coming back.
Correct.
So are we looking at start time at all?
8 AM.
No, I mean,
Oh,
start
no.
time for schools.
Well, what I would say is, for the, wouldn't it make sense, we'll come in, people have ideas, and on the first meeting in June, we kind of look at the agenda and kind of have the agenda built.
Okay.
And the first Monday in June. There's a lot of things, one of the things that, I think we need to talk about is, I think it's time to do a new strategic plan for the district.
Agreed.
I think we've been Band-Aiding this one along for the last couple of years and I think we need to I don't think we need to do mission and vision. I think those.
No, but
I
you
think
need
that
to
the overall
reevaluate.
strategic, we did all these changes in the high school, and they're great. But are we being thoughtful all the way through? And I just think looking at it as a group of people in this community is something that I'm gonna recommend we do next year.
Next item is the first reading of a new policy, EEAG, student transportation in private vehicles. If anybody has any comments or enhancements or changes, forward them to Di so that we can have for the next meeting.
So, for me, if we can just talk about this for a minute.
Certainly.
It's tricky. So, the one thing that I've always been so frightened of, you remember when we were building the new high school, and our basketball teams in the middle of the winter were driving to Oxford and to Northbridge and to other towns, and I had teenagers driving with each other to these other towns. So I think if we bought an event van, or whatever you want to call that, bus,
Party bus.
and for anything going outside of town, so I see two things. One, going out of town, but then like after school, and you have soccer at the center of town, kids just have to get there. Kids have to get to the golf course for golf practice. And so I want us to think about, is there a different way to look at in town versus leaving town?
So if you're bringing kids to the Whitensville Community Center where they do the swimming, that's leaving the town?
But we always provide, yes, that's leaving the town, and we always provide transportation for that.
My concern on this is when it's mandated, may not be the right word, but
Expected or-
when it's expected or pushed by a coach for sports or someone that way, that upperclassmen with vehicles and the ability to drive will transport
Yeah, things become
underclassmen.
implied.
You send out a permission slip, I mean, these upperclassmen have to understand, when something bad happens, you're liable, not the school. And they're gonna come after you first, and that's a life-changing event. And I don't think that that's something that we should be putting 16, 17, and 17 and 18-year-old students, we should not make that request of them, whether there's a permission slip signed or not. That's my concern with all of this.
And the way this is worded, that wouldn't be possible. Is that, I think the way I read this,
The way this is worded, but I don't think this addresses, I have some wording that I want to add to this that
Okay.
says, no, we're
Student drivers cannot drive other students.
so without even that, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but it seems to me that fall within the academic day extended, it talks about the staff members obtain permission, but that's not necessarily a staff member driving.
no.
So the way this
That's
is
right, that
currently
just,
worded.
yes.
Right.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
And school bus, when we say school bus, does that mean a yellow bus? Or could that be
The white
the new
bus.
van
They could be
or,
some of the school vehicles.
School
or a
vehicle.
school vehicle?
Yes.
When a school vehicle,
Is that all three? The current vans, the newly proposed van bus?
Correct.
Or a school bus?
Correct.
so I would say that there should never be a time when kids are leaving this town where we don't have any of those available. And I think when we were doing this the last time, if I remember right, it tied into the craziness of a building project. We had all of these different things happening all at the same time, yet it still creeps in once in a while. And, we don't budget for going to the batting cages.
Correct.
And that's $435 to get a bus. And that's where the idea of what are other towns doing, and they're all buying these vans.
Well, take a look, I think it's policy, we would have to have a licensed driver leaving the state. It's why we would take the coach when the girls go down to Connecticut. But
Correct.
then we approve allowing the girls to ride in parents' buses
Yes.
once they're there.
Yep.
Which is out of policy, I think, because when we're traveling out of state, you have to be in a licensed bus, I believe, which it was due to one of these horrific accidents that occurred on an out-of-state trip. I'm not sure how that plays into this policy, out-of-state travel.
That's,
Well, I think,
That's-
well, it could be any, it doesn't even have to be out of state, but it could be anything.
Well, we talked about out of town, but I know out of state it has been a policy, and I'm not sure where that's covered, whether that's in the out-of-state travel or.
could be.
We'll have to look at it.
And again, this policy being on the agenda tonight is not random. It's tied to the possibility of buying a small bus for activities. So that we don't, so we're doing our best to protect all of our students and making sure they're safe when they leave our school district. So this is first reading. I do think we need to get this one right, though.
Yes.
We, just so we have very clear guidance on this.
The second reading for policies DA. Go up here.
We have some changes that we would like to go through with you.
Which one are you on? DBJ or
There's a
DGA?
DGA or DBJ,
DGA, yeah, it's,
the authorized signature?
G's missing, yeah, the authorized signature. DB, DBJ, which is Budget Transfer Authority.
Yep.
DBC,
Oh, I don't see that,
I don't see that one.
I see DD,
DD, and DH.
I don't see
JJ.
JJF.
Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's talk about DGA, authorized signatures first.
You want that changed?
Who does the designee?
So we wanna change this a little bit to go with what we actually do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that different than the red lines that we got?
Yeah,
Yes, so where it says the town treasurer, after that, I would like to it should say the town treasurer or town accountant, who also serves as a school department treasurer, signs all checks drawn against school department funds. So they both have authority to do that right now.
Okay.
Yes. In the first sentence, the chair of the school committee designate. The chair of the school committee designates the superintendent to sign payrolls presented for approval.
I like that.
perfect.
so that's what we currently do. And you receive a monthly school committee.
How do you have a policy that says the chair of the school committee designates the superintendent?
About
We
the
could
school-
vote the policy to designate the superintendent, or the, I
Could
don't,
just be the
Have you read a lot of these
superintendent.
policies, Paul?
I'm just
They're all
reading,
written the same way.
I'm just reading this one right now, and we're suggesting some changes to it that says, this one said or designee, but now we're saying designee, or designates. And I'm not sure how a policy states that the chairman designates, rather than just the school committee designates.
Fine,
That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
school
sounds good.
committee designates.
Nates.
The school committee designates.
And then we all vote the
Superintendent.
policy.
Yep.
Yep.
That
And it's done.
sounds good. Sounds covered.
So we'll make those, so the next is the third reading, so we'll make those changes and you'll vote final.
What's next?
DH, bonded employees and officers.
DH?
Was that in a previous packet?
Bruce, I apologize, this is from the last one,
Okay.
so the policies, the next one would be DBJ,
BJ.
and then DD, and then JJF, that was my error.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to our world. So DBJ, Budget Transfer Authority.
I know we've talked about this.
So if I may,
Please.
based on what we do now, the last paragraph, I would like to omit. Because that's not what we do right now. Right now, if we have the funds, we put them into school choice or circuit breaker or,
So Right now, if there's a major expense, you would notify us and tell us what account you expect to transfer from. But as a practical matter, you haven't had to transfer the funds, so there isn't really a transfer. You overspend a budget line, but you tell us.
That's correct, that's
Yeah,
what we do.
That's correct.
So all this is saying is when you go to make the transfer, you'd make the request and it would be approved.
Correct.
We're talking about the very last sentence to delete it completely.
The last sentence, transfers between line items within
No,
major
all-
accounts?
No, the very last part.
DBJ.
All funds in the general account not expended by the close of the fiscal year will be returned to the municipality.
Got it.
Okay.
Sorry, I went to the red line.
That's okay.
See, I told you about my world.
Again, right now, we do not do that. Well, technically, we just don't spend out of our revolvings. And so there is no money at the end. But we don't return money back to the municipality.
No, we return money back to school choice if we
Choice.
don't spend it
Yeah.
down.
Correct,
So we have the revolving, but
Right.
then if we don't spend it, yeah,
correct.
you spend it the next year.
Okay. Next one is DD, funding proposals and applications.
Nothing on that one?
No.
Nothing on that one. And then JJF.
JJF is student activity accounts.
So right now on this one, this is kind of up to the committee how they would like to do it. On number 5, that's in red. It's been added, shall annually, prior to the start of the school year, establish the maximum balances for the checking accounts. Right now, the balances are established. You don't vote on that yearly. So I don't know if you want to make that a yearly thing or just keep it like it is now and they've been established, and if any changes, then we bring them back to your attention.
What type of numbers are we talking?
So they're, I should have brought them with me, which if you hold 1 minute, I actually did.
I think sometimes the problem with these policies is we vote on these policies and then
So
we
the,
forget what, we'd have to be cognizant of putting these on agendas.
I don't have them with me,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are we talking, we're not talking.
We're talking like 30, I believe the middle school and high school, the maximum balances are 35,000. And the early learning center and elementary is the one that I know is lower, but I don't remember the exact amount.
Oh, just if they exceed 20. And so at the high school, obviously, when you have, there are times when you have that much money, yearbook, other accounts have, can have some pretty large balances.
Well, anything that has 25,000 requires an audit every 3 years.
We do that already.
And we do that.
We do
We
that.
actually are in the process of an audit right now.
Okay,
Well, not in the process, they're coming in May.
okay.
Well, it's May, soon.
It's late, Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have anything on student activity accounts? This is the second reading, so there's still one more chance to
Do you want to
read.
not to exceed the state requirement somewhere in that, at the end, or number 5?
No,
Okay.
No. I went back and,
Okay. All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's update.
Going back to the beginning of this meeting, we are doing some
Thank you,
great
Nancy.
things here. We really are doing some wonderful things. I started my day in the old Fort Devens. They've done a nice job up there.
and Jerry and I went up for an update or a 3-hour workshop on truly trying to understand the new report card and how they establish report card. And so in the fall, I'll take certain slides from that PowerPoint and share it with you. But it was nice, it was good to sit in and hear from the person who built this monstrosity of how they do it. But the one takeaway that I came with was the way they're really looking at this is it's divided in many parts, but really 2 parts. One is the overall student population, which counts for 50% of your report card, and then the bottom 25% of academic performers in your district. But it's really not even that, because in the 50% of all students, you also have the bottom 25%. So the way you get your report card is how are you servicing 50% of your report card or more, is how do you address the bottom 25% of your students, which is an interesting. And then I was worried that next year our report card will be down, because it's new, the way they do it, it could fluctuate. But what they're gonna do next year is they're gonna do they're gonna take a 2-year window. So 60% of next year's report card will be this current year's testing, and 40% will be last year's, so they blend them together. So that's something to look forward to when I give that presentation. There's a lot to it. I'll slim it down. I'll pick some key slides to share with the community. But in so many cases, it's never gonna be about Sutton.
No, it's not.
It's
It
just
just-
really not.
It just doesn't sound like it's
It-
aimed at,
It's not
challenging-
appropriately, yeah,
yeah.
it's,
It's aimed at your urban, to me, it sounds like it's aimed at your urban
Urban,
schools with lots of problems, and it unjustly penalizes the suburban schools that provide a lot of AP and independent studies and other classes that way.
Well, you do get credit. You do get credit for that. You do. I think, to take a positive spin, I think they're trying to get better at it. I think they're saying
so then they should take the input of everybody in the education community in the state of Massachusetts and do,
they've been
shouldn't they have done that
they have been.
a long time?
No, they've been doing it. I went to
Well, then they still don't have
I
the
went
right.
to a couple of community forums. I do think they're trying to get better. What they're looking at, so for us, MCAS only counts for 67% of our overall report card. So, and 1/3 or 22.5% is student growth. So they're not just saying, what's your raw scope? They're also saying, how have you grown? And then they're also looking at chronic absenteeism, which counts for 10%. So 67.5% is the MCAS test and how we did. 22.5% is how our kids did from one year to next, comparing our own students.
Mhm.
And then 10% is chronic absenteeism. But then you divide that in half and use that formula for all students and your bottom 25% of your students. So I'll share more of this. I'll bring up I'll get the slides that they presented today. So I do think they're trying to get better at it. They give you points, and now the and then the high school
This
is different.
This is just crazy.
So
I'm
the high
sorry.
school applies it, they use different criteria for the high school, like how many AP courses you have, and Project Lead the Way will be considered an advanced class, and some other things. So I do think the current commissioner is very forward-thinking. I do think he's looking at probably reducing even further the reliance on the overall MCAS score and putting more reliance on how our kids grow through our system.
Isn't that more important?
Yes, so I think our commissioner, well, first of all, before
But
growth.
MCAS doesn't predict the child's ability to grow, to learn, and to succeed in the community outside of school.
So I think the attempt here, you still have,
So
you still are tied into the federal regulations that more affect urban districts. But I do think they're trying to capture other key elements. To be quite honest with you, we get no points for chronic absenteeism. That was a wake-up call for me. Our overall attendance is great, But we have a number of kids that miss more than 18 days a year. That shocked me when I saw that. So that's something we are working on and trying to improve. But it also says a lot about the social, emotional issues
Yes,
that
which
have
is
faced
huge.
everyone.
Okay.
So I'll come in the fall, and once we get the
So
test,
really what we should be doing is identifying the factors that impact learning and then determine the degree to which they exist in each school, instead of doing all this other crap. Because if you address them, you can alter all the other things.
but right now, we have a system that is dictated by our federal government, our state government, that
Right.
there
Oh,
was
I know.
No Child Left Behind that came in and mandated that we do testing in our schools to this degree. And so that's
So it's
part of what that is.
Every child's stressed out. Yeah,
So-
it's absurd.
But I do think that we're moving steadily into a better direction to give us better data. But we're never going to be in the bottom 15% where we're gonna need any type of assistance from the state of Massachusetts. So what we should do as a school district is just what I said. We have too many kids who are out chronically, and we need to address that.
So why
What-
doesn't NEAS catch that?
So looking forward to the presentation in the fall?
NEAS doesn't catch that because they're not looking for that.
But that's
But our attendance,
also an indication, I mean, if you're looking at that, I mean, that truly is an indication of the health of your school.
but our
so-
overall attendance is more than 95%, so
Right, but.
that's how I was keying in on it.
Yeah, but anytime you can identify those pockets, that's huge. So then
Yes.
it just, I think it really requires us to be more introspective with regard to our population here.
Yeah, well,
Let's see what the visions committees, changes and recommendations, how those,
Yeah.
when those filter through what we're doing, how that affects.
What you see.
right. You know,
Absolutely.
what is interesting is we made these changes in our electives in our middle school, and I don't know what any other changes, but we only had one student who signed up for virtual middle school, which is fascinating. Out of 7th and 8th grade, only one student signed up for virtual middle school. So we're looking at that, is it because we changed our electives and what kids are, I don't know what's going on.
Ask the kids.
Well, Mr. Goya will ask them.
I know, I mean, that's just a huge part I think we miss out on a lot of times is asking the kids, which is why it's great to have them in our vision committee.
Sure.
And the learning team. That's huge.
Speaking of MCAS, the elementary has finished the ELA portion of the MCAS. They're now working on the math portion and then science and technology. Arbor Day was held last week. We went down to Veterans Field. I had never been there before. Didn't know it existed. It was kind of neat. We planted a couple of trees. The kids all received trees to bring home. It was great. That's a hidden gem down there. Really nice. The middle school this month goes on our first annual, or I'm sure they did it before, but a trip to Washington DC. Mr. Goyette is something, and his staff, I shouldn't just say Mr. Goyette, they pulled this together. Fox Tours came in and helped them, but it's happening, and I think there must be 3 buses going based on the numbers. So pretty excited about that. And Mr. Goyette is in MCAS hell right now. So Mr. McCarthy came and presented. Special education will be coming in the first meeting in June. Dan has been really tied up with, getting MCAS going, but he's also tied up in the police department, getting the police department up and running. The facilities, the hot water heater, I want to thank MPC, who tracked down a hot water heater for us from another company that had it, and they were able to get it from them because they weren't putting it in right away, so they did yeoman work to get it. It's been installed. The total cost is just over $38,000. This was a capital item, and so this will come out of the capital fund once it's voted at town meeting in May. We are getting estimates on some small areas of abatement for our early learning center. That'll take place over the summer. And Roger Raymond will come in early June. Sue provided your update on the arts. I'd like to provide an update on what's happening with our project with the Blackstone Valley superintendents. I'm meeting with them on Thursday. The state, through our writing letters to our legislators, Joe McKenna has put into a line item $25,000 as seed money for this project so that we could hire a part-time coordinator for the valley to develop this program. Hopefully it'll stay. I talked to Ryan Fatman on Friday, and he spoke that the best way to go forward, and you learn how politics works, is to keep the same dollar. If you want the money, the best shot is to keep, not to ask for more, keep it at 25,000. And so hopefully we'll get that money to get this project up and running. We have identified, I don't know how much I've told you this, but I've had so many meetings on this. We have identified a manufacturing engineering teacher, and I met with the Chamber of Commerce and the Ed Hub. The Ed Hub is that manufacturing wing, or that, they have 3 rooms. I went to the Chamber of Commerce down in Northbridge, where they have 3 rooms, and where we would run this course through there and through Uxbridge. So we are gonna start tapping students to do this program, looking at getting 2 students from every school. If it works well in the fall, then we run manufacturing in the spring. The other thing, this ties into what Mr. McCarthy was talking about. So we will have these students from all Blackstone Valley that will go to the Chamber of Commerce building. They will be in there, they'll be working on projects. This will give our students an opportunity to meet businesses in that area, because they'll be down there. They'll have an opportunity potentially to get jobs, especially targeting kids that, we have 10% of our kids that don't go to college. So we're looking for ways that they have an opportunity to get connected to businesses. And then there are other kids that go to college and they might not be able to afford it, or they realize, you know what, this isn't for me. We want to have those opportunities for those kids as well. So that's happening. And then we do have a school committee meeting on May 20th. And the rest of, I think everybody's tired. The rest of the different events are on our website that are coming up over the next couple of weeks. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any new business agenda items or action items?
I would just encourage people, as always, attend town meeting.
When is that?
When is that town meeting?
I think it's next Monday.
It is
We-
next
Oh, wait a minute.
Monday.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
God, I didn't have it on my calendar. Thank you.
Because it usually falls in between our 2
Yep.
May meetings, and it's always on a Monday.
Yep, it's
so.
the 13th.
And we'll have the same school committee next year, correct?
Looks like it.
Who's,
Because it's the same.
Unless there's a lot of write-ins.
yeah.
I
Right, it's the
don't,
same.
And then Mickey Mouse might be sitting there, so,
So we'll be getting out to you a packet for my evaluation. We'll get you out a cover letter, some of the highlights of what we've done, and the standard form that we use. We'll get that out to you, hopefully very soon this week.
Okay.
Town meeting. Get that, town meeting.
Somebody care to make a motion?
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.